it's your cousin. Why don't you take me bowling? I came into this country to live a life of trouble. But ever since I got here, man, my blood pressure has doubled. These promises of freedom and the memory attractions turned out to be a bunch of crap and misleading distractions. My cousin is an idiot, he's always in a mess, and cleaning up his problems is a constant source of stress. And every time I'm on a job, he won't leave me alone. Every hour, every minute, man, he rings my bloody phone. Nico, it's your cousin, why don't you take me bowling? And afterwards we'll go get drunk and go rock-a-rolling. Cousin, it's your cousin, let's get a bleeder burger and wash away the taste of all that carnage, crime and murder. Nico, it's your cousin, why don't you take me bowling? I can't believe this. Ooh, Nico, it's your cousin, why don't you take me bowling? Yeah, Roman, what the hell? Now is really not the time. I'm kind of in the middle of a quite demanding crime. I'm driving like a maniac, I'm on a high-speed chase, and you want me to desist so you can stuff your fatty face? Why don't you phone these cops and tell them to calm down? And maybe then I'll have the time to ferry you around. I'll phone you when it's over, if I don't hit a wall, and then I'll show you just where you can stick your bowling balls. Nico, it's your cousin, why don't you take me bowling? And afterwards we'll go get drunk and go rock-a-rolling. Cousin, it's your cousin, let's get a bleeder burger and wash away the taste of all that carnage, crime and murder. Nico, it's your cousin, why don't you take me bowling? I see Roman, no blood clots. Ooh, Nico, it's your cousin, why don't you take me bowling? Great, another freeloading shithole. Yeah, I've got 99 problems, and a fat idiot cousin is definitely one.
Suspect heading east on Algonquin Bridge. Now heading east towards a bowling alley in South Broker. In pursuit.
Ramirez, tie my shoelaces. Well, I'm a military man with a heart of lead. I got a floating M4 sticking out of my head. Got a cacophonous captain always screaming at me. I got the Burger Town blues times infinity. I was the brightest in my unit, got the tightest of training. So why am I down on the range learning basic aiming? I guess I must have got my screws knocked loose in a fight, cause I don't even remember how to aim down sights. Now that the training is done, we're on the chopper to war. Captain Noisy is yelling and telling us what we're here for. The mission is critical, revolution political. I can question it, but I ain't feeling too analytical. Cause a dude on a rooftop with an RPG just sent her spinning around 360 degrees like a prepubescent sniper on 10 sensitivity. I spin in circles with a bunch of dudes yelling at me, cause I'm the shooter guy, the shooter guy. Laws of physics and logic need not apply. Yeah, I'm the shooter guy, the shooter guy. As long as I have my wall, I will never die.
360 no scope, triple collateral, guys. Oh my god, headshot, bitch. I'm a sniper.
Now the world it is fading. parade, and through slow motion I'm waiting with the bad guys invade, and look around in the blur and see the bodies and blood. Get control of my legs again and crawl through the mud. Snipers on ledges wearing bulletproof apparel. Why are these idiots standing next to those flammable barrels? Red containers of death, they make for easy kills. They must spend a fortune on the fuel bill. Got a secret vacuum cleaner from my shirt to my pants. Sucks up ammo off the floor straight into my hands. Just gotta walk over bodies, now I reveal when I kill. Teabag and necrotic face for homoerotic drills. Take a rocket to the face and a shot to the balls. But it's okay, I got my good friend chest high wall. Hiding in cover behind my wall, I will hover, and in a couple of seconds I will be fully recovered. Cause I'm the shooter guy, shooter guy. Laws of physics and logic need not apply. Yeah, I'm the shooter guy, shooter guy. As long as I got my wall, I will never die. That's right. So now I'm riding the battle, explosions roar and they rattle. All of the grunts in my unit are getting slaughtered like cattle. Stupid morons keep on running out in front of my shots. Then they bitch at me for shooting them. Who programmed these bots? Just when I'm in the zone, the murder's becoming fun. Here comes a heavy armored chopper with a big minigun. I waste 1,000 freaking bullets and it's still not down. No, look, a launcher's lying conveniently on the ground. Boom goes a rocket that I pull out of my pocket. Got an infinite stash and no armor's gonna block it. Now we got a locked door blocking the route, but Captain Noisy has a key in the shape of his boot. We go sneaking and a peeking through the enemy base. Into the fire we race, bodies all over the place. Holding X is effective to achieve our objective. Get to the chopper is our final directive. I'm the shooter guy, shooter guy. Laws of physics and logic need not apply. Yeah, I'm the shooter guy, shooter guy. As long as I got my wall, I will never die. Cause I'm the shooter guy, shooter guy. I'm a walking, talking cliche, this I can't deny. Yeah, I'm the shooter guy, shooter guy. As long as I got my wall, I will never die. Middle class white kids rapping. It's so ghetto, ghetto. Middle class white kids rapping. It's so ghetto, ghetto.
Hey everybody, it's Sunday Fun Day and time for more DisasterCast.
Whee!
Which, also, happy 4th of July, everyone. We are going to celebrate 4th of July by talking about dead British sailors.
I'm genuinely sorry if you hear any muffled blahs, if they're very faint. We live in an area where there's a whole bunch of fireworks and a whole bunch of guns going off.
Yeah. Which, the weirdest thing for me is that people are setting fireworks off right now. It's 12 o'clock in the daytime. It's fucking noon.
I mean, they were setting them off yesterday at 7:30 when the sun was still out.
Yeah, like, it's like, okay, yeah, which, by the way, I hope all of you enjoyed yesterday, which is, as I like to call it, blow your load early day. Just go ahead and just knock that shit out early. I don't know what the point. I don't know why they did that. Maybe they've been here and don't worry, it happens to lots of guys a little too much, and, you know.
It's because of the fireworks stand up at Walmart, and now they have an endless supply.
Yeah.
They don't have to ration right now.
That's a very good point. Which actually we can do a little we are gonna let's go ahead and get the game started, and we'll start off before we get into the main event of today's DisasterCast, which, by the way, I will be presenting. We're going to do this totally different. Kayla's going to be the one playing the game. I'm going to talk about the disaster for today. We'll do a little mini interlude beforehand discussing fireworks. Because I'm going to pretend that I totally planned this shit out, and I definitely planned for the fact that today's the 4th of July. I did not plan for the fact that today's the 4th of July. I'm terrible at planning for holidays. I'm horrible at planning special streams for holidays. Like, I'm horrible at it. I barely managed to plan my birthday streams, and I've got all year for that shit.
Yeah, you ask me in the months leading up, would this be a good idea for my birthday stream? And I say yes, and then you don't do it because you forgot about it.
That's basically exactly what happens, I'm not gonna lie. So anyway, we are going to, so what is going to be happening is, let me get this, Kayla is going to be playing, Catherine. We're going to have Catherine pretty low because we're not doing the story, we're just going to do endless puzzle.
Yeah.
So, like, today's mostly just going to be, everybody's just going to be chill, you know? Is what we're going to do. It's going to be chill, relaxing. I'm going to talk about the Franklin expedition. That's going to be the plan. Kayla will be doing one disaster. I'll be handling the other disaster.
Yeah,
basically.
the shit on the screen doesn't matter today.
Yeah, shit on the screen is mostly just kind of white noise while I talk. So, before we get into the main event for today, I would actually like to, because I think you would have a lot of fun discussing this with me, let's discuss, speaking of fireworks, let's discuss the LAPD's amazing ability to safely handle fireworks.
God, Jesus.
That's going to be a very... That's going to be an extremely brief DisasterCast. This is like a little mini-lude, I guess you could say, for DisasterCast, because it's pretty easy to decipher what happened.
It's the foreplay before the main event.
Basically, yeah. So for those of you who don't know, the LAPD seized in expert law terms, a metric fuck ton of fireworks from citizens because California is currently in a very severe drought situation, and really, just considering the heat wave, nobody should really be setting fireworks off right now.
Yeah, hey, remember whenever someone's announcing the genitals of their unborn child set half of California on fire?
Yeah. So LAPD has been seizing fireworks and things like that, and the other day they so brilliantly decided, hey, let's pop these motherfuckers into our sealed truck that is very, very hot, because it's very fucking hot outside because we're in the middle of an unprecedented historic heat wave. And then it exploded. Blew up a neighborhood, people have been injured, and naturally they are not going to see any compensation from the LAPD or the city of Los Angeles as a result of this. Now, this is normally the part where we go into what caused this great disaster. I'm gonna tell you what caused this great disaster. A bunch of fucking cops put a bunch of fucking fireworks into a hella hot fucking truck. There you go.
As someone who has seen idiot boys stuff little M80s into empty plastic bottles, seal them up really quickly after lighting the fuse, and then throwing them at the end of the driveway just to watch what would happen. This is why you need someone from the South on your on your police force. They would tell you exactly what would fucking happen if you did that.
Like, people in the South know exactly what's gonna make something go boom. They know that certain household chemicals, if you just like roll up some aluminum foil into a ball and just like toss it into a bottle, seal the bottle, and throw it, it's gonna make a huge explosion because the pressure will build up. No, everyone, I'm not gonna tell you what those household chemicals are because
No.
I don't want to get banned.
No, we're not anarchist cookbook here.
Yeah, the South loves their booms. Basically what I'm saying is you need a Southerner on your bomb squad at all times.
We know what make things go boom.
We really do. Because we make things go boom just for fun.
I was about to say, it's a rite of passage for us.
Exactly. So yeah, that is, you also put peanuts in your Coke? I did the Mentos thing one time. But,
Yeah,
fun fact, the Mentos and Diet Coke, it will, like, explode outward if you leave the top off, but if you seal the top, it will go all splody and stuff.
Yes, it will.
It will go boom.
That's the important part, is you need to seal the top. Southerners understand put pressure, make bigger boom.
Yeah, we understand that very, very well. Alright, so that's kind of our little mini, lewd of, our little mini discussion, our little mini disaster.
Okay, Raging, hold on. You say we all have the anarchist cookbook. Do you have the good original one? Or do you have...
Are you fucking gatekeeping right now?
Yes.
No, bad. We don't do that. We do not gatekeep it. There is no gatekeeping in this chat.
I mean, you can't even find the original anarchist cookbook except for like a couple $1,000s on eBay, and even then they'll rip you off.
Oh, yeah. You have no way of, like, knowing for certain that it's,
Yeah, because Amazon only sells the censored version that doesn't include the recipe for meth.
I mean, you can hang out anywhere in our town, and
Oh, God,
somebody
yeah.
will give you that recipe. So, I mean,
You can get that recipe unprompted.
You can get the, yeah, like, literally, you don't even have to ask for it. You just gotta, like, be existing, and some dude with no teeth will walk up to you and go, hey, you wanna learn how to make meth? And you're just like, brother, do I look like fucking Walter White to you?
I have learned shit where I have just been at Walmart. I have gone outside to one of the vending machines because it's only 50 cents to get a can of soda. And I have had people walk up to me and promptly start telling me shit.
I know, right? It's like, can we get to know it? Can we get a first date before you start confessing felonies to me?
I mean, I'm generally nice to them because I don't want them to stab me. We've had plenty. Hey, we have had plenty of stabbings in our Walmart
That's
parking
true.
lot that
That's
I have
true.
right to be fearful.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that was our little mini disaster. I guess we should probably get on to the main event now.
I forgot we were doing that for a minute. I was just like, no, let's tell you about the shit that happens in our town.
Well, it's always fun to talk about that kind of stuff.
It kind of is because our town seems like such an enigma. It's probably very ordinary, but it seems wild to us.
There's a certain level of ordinary for us that I know of other people. If we tell them that, they go, "Wait, what?" Okay, sorry. One more thing. I promise we're gonna start. Just one more little side note. One more little sidetrack. Okay, so I was reading Reddit, and somebody mentioned about, you know, that high school prank that kids pull where they release. Okay, here's the way it works.
Yeah.
You put three chickens in the school, but you put little numbers on them. You number them 1, 2, and 4, and then you watch the teachers try to hunt up chicken number 3. There is no chicken 3. There's only 3 chickens, right? And that's like a pretty common senior prank, especially where we live. I remember it happened my sophomore year, and someone actually put
happened
that
at
on
my school.
Yeah, and somebody actually put that shit on r/that. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, sure, you definitely put chickens in the school, and I'm like, that is actually a very common senior prank in rural areas like ours.
Happened twice whenever I went to high school.
Yeah, it happened my sophomore year. My senior year, we didn't do that. Well, I don't know what the rest of the seniors did. I got the ROTC. I was in junior ROTC when I was in high school because, I was an asshole in high school. Anyway, so I actually got the other seniors together and we stole the principal's favorite golf club and held it for ransom, and he bought us breakfast from Bojangles to get it back. Yeah, that was all my idea, by the way. I will 100% claim credit for that. It was 100% me.
Well, see, I wasn't part of my senior high school prank because I did the thing where I graduated early, but for our, because I was in band only my senior year for 1 semester, what we did was we were supposed to be practicing a certain number for our Christmas concert in band class, and we started playing we rickrolled our teacher.
Nice. Okay, that's a good one. I like senior pranks like that where it's like kind of crazy, but it's something that's pretty easily resolved, you know? I actually do like the chicken in the school prank because it's an easy thing to resolve. You just catch the damn chickens.
Not to mention, especially my high school, you know where my high school was. It was in the middle of butt-fuck nowhere up a mountain.
Yeah.
We had chickens going in the parking lot throughout the day. We could have easily found them.
Yeah. Well, y'all could have probably walked a damn cow into that school if you think about it.
I mean, cows would actually wander into the baseball field because our school was right next to a farm that had cows and horses.
That's great. That makes me happy. Basically what we're saying is rural senior pranks are way more fun than city senior pranks. Sorry, urban folks, but, you know.
We have easier access to livestock than you do.
That's true. It was just high school. I was only in junior ROTC in high school. By the time I graduated high school, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was really ramping up, and it was affecting more folks who are AFAB, which I am, and it was affecting more lesbians than it was gay men, because, like, you get think about it, you know, you get passed over for a promotion in favor of some woman who gets it instead. Women are socialized to be more physically affectionate it's an easy thing to start telling people, oh, well, she hugs up on other women, she's a lesbian.
Yeah.
Lesbians were disproportionately affected by Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And I did not want to deal with that shit. So, yeah. I actually was planning on, I was thinking about the Air Force Academy at one point.
I remember that.
Yeah. But I didn't want to deal with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Yeah.
See, I didn't do ROTC because I watched you do it, and especially that summer week.
Oh, yeah, summer camp was fucking brutal. It was literally
that
a week of torture and no sleep.
Yeah, that week of torture, I was just like, no, that seems hard. I was just like, I don't want to do that.
It was hard, but I was one of the few people in my school to go through it for 3 years. Like, most times, freshmen did not go to that summer camp. I was one of the few freshmen that qualified for it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, Bungie, man, our high school didn't have a welding program, mainly because the people who were welding were already just leaving high school and going to do that as a job in and of itself.
Yeah, we live in an area where it was most times the reason why people dropped out was either, number one, they were pregnant, or, well, actually, even if they were pregnant, a lot of times they would still stick it out and finish out their
Yeah,
degrees.
I had plenty of people who had their kids at our graduation.
Yeah, but the number one reason why people dropped out was because their families needed another source of income, so they would go work full time.
Or they just had another job lined up that didn't actually require it. Like they had family who ran an auto shop, or they had family who ran a plumbing business.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we come from a world of trades.
Pretty much, yeah. So anyway, we should definitely get the ball rolling.
I was having fun.
I was too, but I really do want to talk about
Okay.
I want to talk about British sailors dying.
Fine.
All right, here we go. So we're going to talk about, as you probably guessed from looking at the title, today we are talking about the Franklin expedition, which is one of the most... This is a expedition that is shrouded in mysteries, and we're going to get into why.
Sorry, real quick, guys, let us know how the audio is as Bird gets going and I get going.
Yeah, the game is meant to be quieter. You're just meant to hear us a lot more because the game is mostly just going to be background for this discussion. All right, here we go. So I actually scripted a little bit of this, and I'm very proud of myself for that. It reminded me whenever I did the lore versus canon videos. All right, here we go. In 1845, the British ships HMS Erebus and HMS Terror departed England for the Canadian Arctic. Commanded by Sir John Franklin, their mission was to traverse the last unnavigated sections of the Northwest Passage in the Canadian Arctic, record their scientific findings and magnetic data, and finally establish a western shortcut between Europe and Asia for trade routes. Sir John Barrow, the second Secretary of the Admiralty, was particularly eager to finally forge the last link between East and West, with many countries seeing the discovery of the fabled Northwest Passage as one of the last great discoveries on Earth. Since becoming second secretary in 1804, Barrow had organized numerous expeditions into the Canadian Arctic, some of which were also headed by Sir John Franklin. By 1845, the combined discoveries of all these expeditions had reduced the unknown parts of the Canadian Arctic, which might contain a Northwest Passage, to a quadrilateral area of about 181,300 kilometers squared, or 70,000 square miles. It was into this unexplored area that the next expedition was to sail, heading west through Lancaster Sound, then west and south, however ice, land, and other obstacles might allow, with the goal of finding a Northwest Passage. The distance to be navigated was roughly 1,670 kilometers, or 1,040 miles.
Okay. So, we couldn't discover anything else, so Canada it is.
Honestly, yes. I'm not gonna lie. And also, a lot of Canada was not very marked out at this time either. The mainland of Canada, especially the further north you go, is actually a pretty rough place to be.
Yeah, from what I hear.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about how it's easy to die in Alaska. It's really fucking easy to die in Canada.
And no one will ever fucking know.
Yeah, that's the thing. No one will ever know. That's like the terrifying thing about places like Alaska and Canada for me. You could die and nobody will fucking know.
Yep.
Which, like, ugh. Screw that noise. Alright, so let's talk about the commanders of the expedition.
Okay.
Because every expedition, they're kind of some of the most important parts of an expedition. So first we've got Sir John Franklin, who was the commander of the expedition. He was the big guy in charge. He had been on 3 prior expeditions to the Arctic, and 2 of them he had commanded. One in 1819 to 1822, and another one in 1825 to 1827. So he's got some experience. He was known as a kind man with a gallant heart, a love of exploration, and he was a deeply religious man who cared a lot for his crew and had a very infectious enthusiasm for exploration, and he was particularly eager to help forge this last link.
So he wasn't green and he wasn't jaded.
Basically, yeah. He was like at first glance, this is the guy that you want, you know? Mm-hmm. And on top of that, he had his second in command was Francis Crozier. He was second in command of the expedition, and he was the captain of the Terror. Francis Crozier had commanded the Terror in previous Arctic expeditions, and he had a great deal of experience in the Arctic area, and he also had an understanding of the local Inuit culture. This was an area where nomadic living was basically how you did things. There was an Inuit, there were multiple Inuit communities, but they were very nomadic, and Crozier had a good understanding of them, and he also spoke their language.
Okay.
And then finally, our third in command, you've got James Fitzjames, which is I know. That's what I thought. I was like,
Fucking nerd.
but despite the nerdiness, he commanded the Erebus. So the way that this worked, this was kind of a 3-tier system. You had Franklin at the very top, technically captaining both ships as the commander of the expedition. You had Crozier, the second in command, who was the commander of the Terror, and then Fitzjames, who was the third in command and ostensibly the commander of the Erebus. So Franklin was still in charge overall, but the day-to-day work of the individual ships was left to Crozier and Fitzjames, essentially. So Fitzjames did not have experience in the Arctic, unlike his 2 counterparts, but he was a man who had risen very quickly through the ranks in the Royal Navy, mainly because of his tenacity, his courage in battle, and just he was kind of this. He basically had a reputation as a guy who was willing to do whatever needed to be done to complete a mission, essentially. At one point, there is a story where he walked into a dangerous camp, basically just strolled right in there by himself, and essentially intimidated the enemy into surrendering.
That is a man with brass balls. I will give him that.
The dude had some brass balls. Also, he also had a brass spine almost, because there is also a story of where he was shot at one point, and the trajectory of the bullet made it so that it just barely did not reach his spine due to the trajectory of the bullet and also the clothes that he had on. And basically, like, he survived what should have been a fatal wound. So this guy had some pretty good luck for him. And his novelty and how well he was known among the Admiralty and how much he was liked among the Admiralty was as such that he was the captain of his own ship at 29.
Jeez.
That is not a normal time to become a captain of your own ship. So basically we had 3 guys who were very, they knew what they were doing. They had, one of them had a little less experience, was a little greener than the others, but they were a tenacious and brave group, essentially, which is about what you want in a situation like this.
Where did it all go wrong?
Well, we're gonna get there. We promise. I'll see you later, Raging. Have a good one.
Bye.
We'll see you when you get back. So now that we've talked about the commanders, let's talk about the Erebus and the Terror. So the Erebus and the Terror were originally bomb-class naval warships.
Okay.
And they were strong. They were very strong.
I mean, you kind of have to be.
Yeah, you have to be a naval warship, absolutely. They had also been used in previous Arctic expeditions. So again, we've even got experienced ships here, which is crazy.
Again, where did it all go wrong?
But they were both sturdy built, and they were designed over multiple trips to the Arctic to best withstand the enormous pressures of the pack ice and the wind and things like that. The main thing with Arctic expeditions is as the wind blows, it blows pack ice, which is basically ice that floats on top of the water and also further down into the water itself. And it can cause enormous pressure on the hull of the ship because it gets blown by the wind into the sides of the ship. It creates a lot of pressure, especially as the Arctic freezes over. That can cause a lot of pressure from the ice on the ships itself.
Okay.
So the Erebus and the Terror were designed to withstand this. And basically, these hulls were thick. They had bows constructed with heavy beams and iron plates in order to better withstand the pressure. And also, this is on top of the fact that these had originally been bomb-class naval warships. They had already been basically kitted out for heavy lifting because of the fact that they had to carry cannons and fire really large mortars and things like that. So these were very sturdy ships.
Yeah, according to Reaper, they were thick with 4 Cs.
Yes. Thick with 4 Cs, essentially.
I mean, you kind of had to be. Ice cutter ships are a thing for a reason.
Yes, that is very true. Also, this expedition. Remember, whenever I mentioned Barrow earlier, the second secretary of the Admiralty, he was getting pretty up in years. He was in his 80s at this point, and he really wanted to make this expedition work. He wanted to finally forge that last link of the East and West. He was very particularly interested in finally succeeding in this before he retired.
Gotta get your name out there as you die.
Basically. Or, like, at the very least, he wanted to be the one who sent off the successful expedition before he retired. So, as a result...
I'm not gonna be on that goddamn ship, but I'll send it off!
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, Franklin had been out a couple of times, and this would be his 4th voyage into the Arctic, his 3rd one looking for the Northwest Passage, and basically it was going to be his magnum opus before he retired gracefully. He was going to finally do this and then retire gracefully was his plan.
Gracefully.
Exactly.
The fact that you have to keep repeating gracefully leads me to believe this was not graceful.
Well, we're going to find out. So the ship was outfitted with a lot of technology that had been modernized. It's stuff that's pretty banal to us, but it was brand new to them. Now, some of these include, one of the big ones was steam engines. Mm-hmm. Steam engines had been used on ships before now, but it was still kind of new. It was still kind of a new thing.
Still a novelty?
Yeah, basically, yeah. And the steam engines that they had drove a different type of propeller. Most propellers and rudders were basically those flapper propellers that you see on the sides of ships. This one, the way they designed it, was with a single screw propeller, which was directly on the back, on the hull of the, or on the stern of the ship. And it, instead of it being off to the sides, it was more narrow, and it would allow the ship to push forward through the pack ice if it needed to. And it allowed the ships to get about 25 horsepower and reach up to 4 knots at full speed.
25 horsies.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, this one was built directly into the stern, and the propeller and the rudders could be retracted into the hull of the ship to prevent ice damage. Which was again a very neat design. Plus, they had worked on so diving suits had also been a thing, but they were still kind of in their infancy. The diving suit design had been improved upon so that a person could get into the diving suit and go into the sub-zero temperature water in order to break ice away from the rudder and the propeller if it was necessary. This had never been done before. Like that was.
We got that fleece lining though.
Exactly, yeah. So this was a brand new thing, and it was successful, from what we understand. It was a successful thing. Anytime they needed to use it. So we got some cool shit going on for this ship. Also, on top of that, the ship had a stove system, which allowed for a central heating system to help keep the crew comfortable in the Arctic winter because it's fucking cold. I
mean, you don't send a little yellow belly up to the Arctic to get things done. You send, your fucking R.J. McCready's. That's who we get living at the end of the thing.
There you go, exactly. And also, there were water pipes fitted into the ship, and this allowed the crew to melt the snow in order to distill it. In order to distill it into drinking water. Again, this was very new. We did not have this before. This ship was kitted out every way you could possibly think of in order to successfully complete.
Where did it all go wrong?
We're getting there, I promise. We're getting there. now we got to talk about the provisions on board. So, one thing that you do have to think about, especially with longer voyages like this, is you have to think about how are you going to keep the crew from getting bored. And I know that seems like a very banal thing, although I don't think that sounds very banal nowadays, considering that we've all been living in
I was about to say, we did a
quarantine,
year
so-
inside.
Yeah, so I think we all understand that boredom is, like, really awful. So they had to find a way to prevent that with their, with the crew members. So they provided thousands of books. There were costumes so that the...
No, I completely understand why. It's just hearing it out loud is
It's a little bit
amazing.
odd, yeah. I agree, yeah. So there were costumes for plays, and exercise. A very strict exercise regimen was developed to keep the men active during the Arctic winters. And remember, Arctic winters is that time where the sun goes down and you don't see that fucker for like 30 fucking days.
We had a whole horror movie about it.
We did, yeah. And also, okay, just because I know I can see where the audience is very excited to get to this part. We're getting there. We're getting to the part everybody wants to talk about the most.
We're getting there.
We're getting to the part everyone wants to talk about the most. Let's talk about food. Because you got to keep your men fed. And they had this ship provisioned for 3 years, with 5 years possible under strict rationing. This was due to a brand new invention called canning. Now, for those of you who have a white grandma in the South, you know a little bit about canning. I've actually done quite a bit of canning. It's something that I actually greatly enjoy. And this was the first instance of canned food being used on an expedition. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of canned food. And the idea was that you could seal up the canned food with soups, meats, vegetables, fruits, all kinds of stuff, and when you unsealed it, it was as fresh as the day whenever it was first packed. Well, we know how canned food works. We all know how it
About
works.
to say, we have a whole room in the house dedicated to that.
Exactly. And also, of course, this was standard procedure. Bottled lemon juice was also provided because a very important thing for sailors is you need to prevent scurvy.
I was about to say, scurvy!
Exactly, and the best way to prevent it is you need to make sure that you're getting plenty of vitamin C. Especially considering you're going into a place where you are not going to get a lot of vitamin D because the sun goes down and it's gone for 30 days. So they had to be very careful to make sure that there was plenty of vitamin C in the diet of the crew members. This was done by, again, the bottled lemon juice, but also there were canned vegetables, canned fruits. The plan was that they were going to use these advances in technology to ensure that the crew maintained a healthy level of vitamin C. We're going to be getting back to that later, by the way, so let's put a pin in that whole vitamin C thing.
Okay.
Because, trust me, that's going to be important later. So let's continue. So now that we have an idea of how provisioned up and prepared this crew was for the expedition, let's talk a little bit about their trip. The expedition set sail from Kent on the morning of May 19th, 1845, with a crew of 24 officers and 110 men. They stopped briefly in northern Scotland before continuing on to Greenland, accompanied by the HMS Rattler and the transport ship the Barretto Jr. This was very common, by the way, for these big ships that were getting ready to go out on expeditions. A lot of times a smaller tugboat would kind of get them to a certain point, so that way they weren't using any.
Someone came by to give them a tug.
Basically, yeah. Someone would come by to give them a tug so that they weren't using up any fuel or resources that needed to be saved for the expedition itself. So this is a very common thing. So they, in Greenland, they docked at the Whalefish Islands in Disco Bay to resupply.
Disco Bay.
Yeah, I know. I giggled at that too. That was to resupply, and also the transport ships were carrying live cattle, which were then, once they reached Disco Bay, those cattle were then slaughtered. They were turned into dried meats and things like that. Basically, the last bit of preservation for the foods that they would need during the expedition. And also a few live cattle were transferred from the Barretto Jr. onto the HMS Terror. This is very common, everyone. In bigger expeditions like this, you would have livestock on the ship to slaughter on ship. You had a butcher and everything. This was extremely common. So, while they were there, and resupplying, the crew sent letters home, and 5 men were discharged and they were returned to England because they were sick, and this reduced the final crew to 129 men if you include all the officers. The letters home indicated that the crew were all in high spirits. Sir John Franklin had the complete unwavering trust of his men. All of them were confident that they would have this expedition all wrapped up. They'd return home as heroes. Sir John Franklin actually did send a letter to his wife, Lady Jane.
Lady Jane!
I don't judge her, however she chooses to identify. He sent home, in his letters to his wife, Lady Jane Franklin, he did mention that there was a very good likelihood that they would be out there for at least 2 summers. At least 2 years. Before, so he was expecting that they wouldn't reach the other side until 1846 at the very earliest. Or 1847, sorry, because this is 1845. So he was expecting that they'd be there for a couple of years. He wanted to let her know that and get out ahead of that before she started worrying. One of the big concerns is, so by this point, we're getting into July.
Okay.
And you want to know what the Arctic does in the wintertime?
Freezes?
It fucking freezes, and you ain't going nowhere. You ain't going any fucking where, I'm telling you right now. And there was a bit of concern because we're getting pretty late into the year to be, going into the Arctic. You want to kind of go out a little bit earlier.
Sounds a lot like a Donner Party situation.
Yeah, you kind of want to go out a little bit earlier. You want to be reaching the Arctic waters by latest. You want to be like March or April so that you've got more summer months to make some headway. But, like I said, everybody was in good spirits. Everybody felt that everything would be fine, so,
I mean, everyone's in good spirits whenever they have food.
That's true. So, in late July 1845, 2 whaling ships encountered the Terror and the Erebus in Baffin Bay, where the crew were waiting for good conditions so they could cross to the Lancaster Sound, and then finally they'd be going into the Canadian Arctic. The captains of the 2 whaling ships spoke with the commanding officers of the Erebus and the Terror. Again, all was well. Everyone was in great spirits, and they...
You keep saying great spirits, and
They were!
like,
Yeah.
okay, where's it going wrong?
Well, so the commanders of the whaling ship spoke with the ship leadership of the Erebus and the Terror.
Ship leadership.
Yeah, wished them well, and they went on their way, and the Terror went on, and the Terror and the Erebus sailed off. And all 129 men were never seen again.
Woo!
Yep, they were never seen alive ever again. So, yeah. So they were gone for about a year, right? And after 1 year, nobody was really worried. After a year, whenever they didn't hear anything from the expedition, nobody was particularly worried. Because again, Franklin was expected to spend at least 1 year out on the ice.
Okay.
So, everybody was like, oh yeah, that's normal. After about 2 years of not hearing anything at all, Lady Jane Franklin got a little bit concerned.
Sir Lady Jane.
Sir Lady Jane Franklin.
First in her name.
Yeah, she got a little bit worried.
I mean, I'd be worried if I lost the breadwinner of my house, too.
So, because she was worried, she and the public started lobbying the Admiralty to send a search party out. Because they were like, hey, we need to muster up a search party fast. Because, this is a pretty dangerous situation, and if they're in trouble, we gotta get there as fast as possible. Time really is of the essence whenever... Anyone who's ever worked in search and rescue will tell you time is of the essence. So, the Admiralty basically brushed her off. And said, no, it's fine. Their exact words, we have unwavering confidence in the skill and leadership of Sir John Franklin. They're like, no, it'll be fine. She didn't really accept that, and she, again, continued to lobby the public to pressure the Admiralty into sending out a search party. One of the most famous people who she got involved with this lobbying expedition was Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens making an unexpected cameo in our story.
I mean, if you look at the life of Charles Dickens, he was a weird fucking dude who was like the old-timey version of a protester that actually kind of did shit.
Yep, and he was a close personal friend of Lady Jane Franklin.
Sir Lady Jane!
Sir Lady Jane Franklin. I'm never gonna live that down.
No, you're not, because that is the best slip I have ever heard.
Gender's a social construct anyway. I'm living proof of that.
Yeah, fuck it.
So Sir Charles Dickens got involved with it too. Eventually, there was enough pressure on the Admiralty, especially as 1848 got closer, and they started realizing, hey, we haven't heard jack shit from these guys. This is actually not all that great. So they started sending out expeditions.
So they went into it because a man told them to.
To their credit, also because they became concerned as well because they weren't hearing anything back from the crew. But a part of it was very much let the women do the work, and then it was, oh my god, that's right.
If it will shut you
That's
up.
right, we're living in Victorian London. I've got to get a man to also say that this needs to be done. So it was 1848 before the first search party was sent out. They found nothing. Because it was fucking frozen because it's cold!
Yeah, everything's frozen over.
Yeah, they couldn't
Didn't
find
you read
anything.
the first part of fucking Frankenstein?
Yeah, it's fucking... literally, I quote directly, page 1, chapter 1 of Frankenstein. Quote, dude, it's fucking cold out here.
I mean, you're actually not that far off.
Dude, it's fucking cold. So... They finally got some people out there. There were both, this was both by sea and also by traversing the Canadian mainland to see if they could find any evidence, any sign of the expedition. Finally, the first, there was some like corroborated testimony from the local Inuit population as to what had happened. But the first bit of evidence that we were able to find was a note that was located in a cairn on King William Island. Would you like to know when we found that? Now the expedition, the search party expedition started in 1848. Would you like to know when we found this note?
1948.
No. No, that's a little too...
1896.
1859, actually.
I was just saying numbers.
Yeah. 1859. 11 years after we started looking. Well, they started looking. I didn't have
I was
no part
about
of
to
this
say,
dumb
we
shittery.
didn't do shit.
Yeah, I didn't have no part of this dumb shittery. Actually, interestingly, as the Admiralty the Admiralty had given up and declared them all as dead in 1854, at which point Lady Jane Franklin Sir Lady Jane Franklin
I was about to say.
she was literally she was using her Karen powers for good, I'm telling you. Because she was writing to the President of the United States, she was writing to multiple different countries, she was writing to Canada. Multiple countries actually did get involved in trying to find these men, which I found very interesting. So, in 1859, we found what is known as the Victory Point Note. It is called that because on a previous expedition to the Arctic, which Sir John Franklin was actually a part of, on the northernmost point of King William Island, whenever it was first discovered, Sir John Ross basically called that point Victory Point because it marked a new. This was farther than anybody had ever gotten as far as mapping out the Northwest Passage. So it's called the Victory Point Note because the note was found in a cairn, which is it's a piling of stones essentially, and it was inside of a sealed tube that they were able to find in, like I said, 1859. Now, this cairn, the paper that they found actually contained 2 messages on one piece of paper. The first message was written it was one of those standard, should you find this, it is important to forward it to the Admiralty of Britain. It's one of those, official documentations giving information as to what's currently going on. The first note said...
So it's a diary entry, but the male version because you can't say diary?
Sort of. It's like an official report that's sort of left in a point.
Diary entry with a notary stamp on it.
Essentially, yes. In a big pile of rocks. Where
else do you leave your diaries?
I make big piles of rocks all over the place just to leave diary entries.
Is that code for pooping? Because it sounds like it's code for pooping.
Well, the neighbors have requested that I stop.
We have gotten formal diary entries with notary stamps on them.
So, here is the first note. This was written in, both these notes were written in Captain Fitzjames's handwriting. HMS ships Erebus and Terror wintered in the ice in latitude 70.05 north, longitude 98.23 west, having wintered in 1846 through 1847 at Beechy Island in latitude 74.43.28 degrees north, longitude 91.39.15 degrees west, after having ascended Wellington Channel to latitude 77 degrees and returned by the west side of Cornwallis Island. Sir John Franklin commanding the expedition. All well. All well was underlined, by the way. Party consisting of 2 officers and 6 men left the ships on Monday, the 24th, May 1847. And this was signed G.M. Gore, Lieutenant, and Chase F. DeVoe, a mate of the ship. And it was dated May 28th, 1847. Now, the 2 officers and 6 men leaving the ships is not uncommon. Remember, they were by the mainland. At this point, they were ice-locked. So it would be very common to send expedition parties out to kind of get a feel for the land, map out the surrounding terrain. Again, this is an expedition. We are mapping out the area. That's a big part of what's happening.
I'm no longer part of this expedition, Captain. Walks off the ship onto the ice.
Just walks off the ship onto the fucking... You know, you joke about that.
I mean, that's what I would do.
Just wait.
Oh God, I was
Hold that fucking... I want you to take that thought and hold it dear to your heart and cherish it like a gem.
I can't.
really
My
want
boobs
you to
are in the
do that.
way.
Well, I still want you to try, okay? I want you to do your best to just hold that thought dear to your heart.
Have you seen my tits?
Yes, I have. That sounded really weird. I would like to retract that statement, please. That's even worse than the Sir Lady Jane Franklin slip.
Sir Lady Jennifer in her name?
Of House Franklin.
Yes.
Alright. So, in the margins of that note, by the way, also in Captain Fitzjames's handwriting, April 25th, 1848, so almost a year later. 25th April 1848, HM ships Terror and Erebus were deserted on the 22nd of April, 5 leagues north-northwest of this, having been beset since 12th September 1846 within the ice.
Bitch, we got stuck.
The officers and crews, consisting of 105 souls under the command of Captain F.R.M. Crozier, landed here in latitude 69 degrees 37.42 inch north, longitude 98 degrees 41 west. This paper was found by Lieutenant Irving under the cairn supposed to have been built by Sir James Ross in 1831, 4 miles to the northward, where it had been deposited by the late Commander Gore in June 1847. Sir James Ross's pillar has not, however, been found, and the paper has been transferred to this position, which is that in which Sir J. Ross's pillar was elected. Sir John Franklin died on 11th June 1847, and the total loss by deaths in the expedition have been to this date 9 officers and 15 men. Signed, James Fitzjames, Captain HMS Erebus. Signed, F.R.M. Crozier, Captain and Senior Officer, and start on the morrow, 26th, for Back's Fish River. Less than a year after the first note had been left saying all is well, just a couple of weeks later, the commander of the expedition had died, and 24 men were dead in less than a year.
The fact that they had to underline all is well should have told them plenty that all was not well.
Yeah. So now we get to the big question.
What the fuck happened?
Basically, yeah, what the fuck happened? So, it's something that I really want to stress. 24 men dying in the course of less than a year, even on an expedition like this, is very unusual. That's not normal. Especially 9 fucking officers. That is 33% of your officers right there. That's not normal. The reality of naval living is that on an expedition, the crew dies first. That's the reality of it, y'all. The officers are going to live longer because they have access to better food.
Yes,
So
it was a magic polar bear because we're playing Lost, apparently.
Yeah. Well, I'll actually discuss the magic polar bear at one point.
Are you fucking serious?
I am going to discuss the magic polar bear at one point, Lunatic Goose, because the magic polar bear makes me angry.
What?
The magic polar bear makes me angry.
What do you mean there's a magic polar bear?
We're going to get there. It makes me angry, I promise.
Okay.
So, what the fuck happened? One thing that I do want to stress as we continue on, everyone, is we only have limited information. that is pieced together from 150 years of expeditions, explorers, scientists, and interviews with the Inuit people of the area. That's all we have that's available to tell us what the fuck happened to these men. But what we do know is that, what we do for a fact know is that in April of 1848, 105 men, the remaining 105 men of the expedition, abandoned the ships and decided that they were going to march south toward Backsfish River and then to the Canadian mainland to get help, basically, from a nearby trading post. We know that that happened. We also know that not a single one of them made it. So, we know everybody died. We know that for an absolute goddamn fact. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care about the fucking conspiracy theories some people have got. Everyone fucking died. Hell, they would have died anyway because that was back in the 1800s and it's like 2021. They'd still be dead either way.
About to say,
Everyone's dead. I'm correct.
Okay. Okay. I'm not gonna argue with you.
So
Stop yelling at me.
Sorry. So let's get into what caused the problems. And there were a lot of problems. And as the great Foamy the Squirrel would say, it starts at your hair and works its way down. Which is very much the case. It really did start at the top. So John Franklin,
Okay.
the gallant, brave explorer with a heart of gold,
Who got everyone killed?
something like that, yeah.
I was joking!
Again, there's a lot of things that went into this. And one thing we need to understand is Franklin was actually not Barrow's first choice to lead this expedition. He wasn't even the second choice to lead this expedition.
What choice was he?
He was the fifth choice.
That bodes well.
This was the fifth choice, and honestly, it was kind of a reluctant settling, is what happened.
Just like his wife. Ayo!
Ayo. So the first choice to lead was William Edward Perry, who had done quite a few expeditions and was extremely well versed in the Arctic. He honestly would have been the absolute best choice. But basically, he was like, bruh, I'm 50 and I'm tired. I'm so fucking tired of the Arctic.
I know I'm gonna die, but I'm sure as shit not having it happen in the Arctic.
Yeah, he literally was like, nah, man, I'm tired. I'm tired of the Arctic. I'm tired of the cold. I want to be warm in my last years, is basically
I
what he
mean,
decided.
it's fair enough.
That's a completely fair decision. And like I said, he was in his 60s at this point. He was like, nah, man. The next choice was James Clark Ross,
Okay.
who was in his 50s. And he had just recently married. And I shit you all not, his reason for why he could not do it was, the wifey won't let me. But in all seriousness, he did swear to his wife that he would not do anyway. He had done a few expeditions in the Canadian Arctic wilderness as well, including one that John Franklin had been a part of. And his wife basically begged him to not go back out on another expedition, and he promised her from the night that they married that he wouldn't go on another Arctic expedition.
Listen, man, when that puss on command says no, you listen.
Kind of, yeah. So, you know. Interestingly enough, the next choice was James Fitzjames. Yeah, that one.
The guy who was on the ship.
Yeah.
Why he no captain?
So, James Fitzjames was in his 30s at the time of the expedition, and even though he was a friend of Barrow...
Ah, God damn it! I was trying to move.
Even though he was a friend of Barrow's and he was well-liked among the Admiralty Board was not going to accept having this expedition headed by a 30-something-year-old man who had no experience in the Arctic. For once, nepotism did not win out. It was just like, no, dude, he's too young, and that's insane. We cannot have him captain this. He did get third in command, though, so, you know.
We're not gonna make him captain, but we're still gonna give him plenty of authority.
Essentially, yeah. And I don't say this to throw off on Fitzjames, by the way. He had a difficult life and a difficult upbringing. He basically was an illegitimate child, which is a very difficult stigma to overcome in Victorian London.
If Game of Thrones has taught us anything.
Yeah, it's a very difficult stigma to overcome, which he did. He did overcome it, and he made a name for himself. He has every right to be very proud. Well, he had every right to be very proud.
I was about to say, are you sure the aliens are not involved?
But yeah, he was way too young to man this expedition, especially one that they genuinely believed was going to find the Northwest Passage. Our fourth choice was Francis Crozier. Yes!
The
That
other
one!
on the ship!
Yes! That one! He was the next choice to lead this expedition. Again, want to stress, he had a lot of experience in the Arctic. He knew the Inuit culture. He knew their language. He actually genuinely, probably next to Perry and Ross, he would have been the absolute best choice.
But
you want to take a guess as to why it was rejected? I promise you're not going to guess it.
The puss on command said no.
No, actually.
The dick on command said no.
That would be amazing, but no. He was rejected by the Admiralty Board because he had a humble birth, he had a low standing, and he was Irish. And they did not want the Northwest Passage to be forged in the name of Queen Victoria by an Irishman.
Racism!
Pretty much, yeah.
That was gonna be my second guess.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
No, it fucking wasn't. No, it fucking wasn't.
No, fucking wasn't.
Yeah. So, Crozier got passed over because he's Irish. And, so, our last choice, Franklin. And Franklin had a very good reason to want to lead this expedition. In fact, he'd been begging to be the one in charge of this expedition for a while before he was finally selected. And he had a reason for that.
Please let me lead, Mommy Lizzie.
Kind of, yes. And, yeah, we had a reason for that. So, you remember how I said Franklin had a reputation for being, like, a very, very earnest explorer? He had he had, like, an almost childlike wonderment at the idea of exploration. Like you said, he was seasoned, but he was not green, but he wasn't jaded.
Okay. Yeah, I remember the words I say.
So, let me take you back to 1819, to the Coppermine Expedition, which was another expedition to try and map out a Northwest Passage. Except this one was on land. This was a mainland expedition where they would walk across the Canadian mainland and the ice and things like that. And it was Franklin's first time leading an expedition, and y'all, he's just very excited to be here. He's very excited.
I mean, you gotta have enthusiasm for your job, I suppose.
Yeah, and he had a lot of enthusiasm. He was very excited to be here. He's just pleased as punch to be here. He lost 11 of his 20 men to starvation and exhaustion.
Honey.
Yeah. Kind of the thing about Franklin was he was known for being the kind of guy who would sort of rush into danger without minding his surroundings or his equipment. At one point, he fell into the river, and he had to be fished out about 98 yards downstream.
Honey! Enthusiasm can only do so much.
Yeah. And the 11 members of the expedition who survived did so by living on a broth of lichen, rotten deer skins, and the leather from their own boots. So this caused Sir John Franklin to be forever known as the man who ate his boots. And this nickname was not given to him as like a... Oh, shit. This nickname was not given to him as a recognition of his tenacity and willingness to survive no matter the cost.
No, that was how they shit-talked him.
Yeah, this was how they shit-talked him. They absolutely shit-talked him. So he was passionate, but he was also very reckless. This expedition was going to be his final attempt to basically restore his rep completely before he retired.
You guys, I'm totally not a...
Yeah, y'all, I can totally totally do this, I promise. Please, please, just... Now, he did have another expedition after the Coppermine expedition that was more successful.
I thought you were gonna say he had another one after the Franklin expedition. I was gonna be like, fucking excuse
That would have
me.
been amazing if he had. This would be a very different podcast if that had been the case.
Yeah, we'd probably be talking about the building in Miami instead.
Yeah. We're gonna get to that one eventually. Once we have more information, we're gonna get to that one. So this was gonna be his chance to sort of prove all the haters wrong and then retire.
The fact that you feel the need to do that makes me automatically want you to fail.
Kind of, yeah. Also, whenever you start naming, when you start saying ships are unstoppable, stop doing that. This is my message to every naval officer in the world from some random fucking nobody who y'all don't know and doesn't know a goddamn clue
Who just
about
yells on the internet.
Who just yells on the internet and doesn't have a goddamn clue what the hell he's talking about. Listen to me right now. Stop saying things are unstoppable. Stop saying ships are unsinkable. You're basically tempting fate at that point.
You're throwing the middle finger to God, and his middle finger shoots lightning.
Yeah, exactly. So don't do it. So, yeah. So we got a captain who was the fourth choice and is really desperate to restore his reputation, and he's already got a reckless streak a mile wide. So I'm sure this will be fine. But
yes, the best thing happens whenever some arrogant dick is like trying to prove that he's not an arrogant dick.
Basically, yeah. So, we kind of also have a couple of other issues with this expedition. Again, ostensibly, this was a very well-planned expedition, but when you start really digging into it, the planning probably could have gone better. Because, remember, we're starting off. By the time we go into the Arctic, we've got 129 men. Would you like to take a wild guess as to how many members of that crew had experience in the Arctic?
15.
No.
Am I high or low?
You're overshooting it.
Oh god, 3, the officers.
No, also remember Fitzjames did not have experience in the Arctic.
God damn it.
One of the 3 commanding officers did not have experience in the Arctic.
2.
You're underselling it. You're undershooting it.
6.
Yes!
Holy shit!
6 men!
I'm great at the numbers game.
Yeah, 6 men had prior experience in the Arctic before this. That was Franklin, Crozier, Erebus's first lieutenant Graham Gore, who died during in 1847. Terror's assistant surgeon Alexander MacDonald, and 2 ice masters, James Reed of the Erebus and Thomas Blanky of the Terror. Ice masters are basically the folks who handle the navigation process, which was a very extensive job. It was a very full-time job. We're going to get into why momentarily. That's going to be put a pin in that. We're going to get to that, I promise.
Clink.
Yeah. But also, the Admiralty made some pretty stupid choices here too.
What?
Part of the reason why I really wanted to talk about the Erebus and the Terror and the Franklin expedition is because it is one of those unique disasters that is a combination of of nature basically making sure you understand who's in charge, but also there definitely was human hubris that played a part in this.
So it's men going in, swinging their dicks around, and nature being like, no, I'm the daddy here.
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
It's a shame the Ice Masters died. They were extremely valuable.
Yeah. I'd imagine so.
Yep. So, you remember those steam engines that I talked about?
Now I do.
Okay, so, those were not maritime steam engines.
Of course they weren't.
Which, for everyone who's wondering, yes, maritime steam engines are a specific, like... There's a difference between maritime steam engines and other steam engines.
The fact that you have to clarify that they're for maritime use
Yeah.
should tell us enough.
Yeah, that should tell you plenty. So, they were actually repurposed train engines.
Honey!
Which, you remember when I said around 25 to 29 horsepower? You remember the HMS Rattler that towed the Terror and the Erebus?
Did it have more horsepower than the boats?
Yes.
I was joking.
The Erebus and the Terror could get up to 4 knots of speed at full speed. The Rattler could get up to 12 to 14 knots.
God damn it, people.
Yeah. Also,
But wait, there's more.
Steam engines need fuel in order to work. The Admiralty decided that they would provision the Erebus and the Terror each with 12 days of fuel for the entire expedition.
Why would you do that?
They thought they were only going to be out there for 1 winter. So they thought, yeah, that'll be fine. 12 days is fine. So any decision to use the steam engines would have been made extremely sparingly. Which is not great, because remember we started out really late?
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about being out in the Arctic is if you want to traverse it, you gotta be fast. You gotta be quick, basically. You gotta, like, skate in between, basically you need to spend your time skating, in between the ice packs and things like that. You gotta be quick, you gotta be able to navigate very narrow, dangerous channels. The Erebus and the Terror really were not the best choices for this. They went for these big hulking ships with these steam engines, and the steam engines basically were basically about the equivalent of 1-ton paperweights. I'm not joking. It basically made things worse. The size and the strength of the ships actually worked against them. They were dealing with very shallow waters, which had a lot of hidden glaciers and ice underneath it that were ready to rip away the bottom of that hole at any time. It was very dangerous and very, very, it was very difficult sailing. Now, for comparison, you remember how I said that there is a nomadic Inuit population, in that area? Well, the thing is, do you know how the Inuits get through the, narrow, icy channels?
With better tactics than the Franklin used.
Canoes. They use small, easy to maneuver, lightweight, quick canoes.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. That's what they use to get around. Yeah, exactly like Neophytes. Little boats. That's the best way to get through the area. You do not... In fact, one of the individuals who found evidence of the Erebus and the Terror, the way that he found it was that he was successfully navigating through the Canadian mainland and the Arctic by using the Inuit tactics of small boats, little kayaks. He would just ride. He would wear.
I was about to say, he would just plug it along on his canoe.
On his little canoe, and he was getting around very quickly. That was the big problem. They treated this expedition as this grand marathon that they needed to overcome with brute strength. Really, they should have treated it as a sprint. Go as fast and as far as you possibly can while you're able to move. That's what you need to do in the Arctic wilderness.
You get out of here with your logic and shit.
Yeah. So, ironically, the HMS Rattler actually probably would have been a better choice. Even with a smaller crew, they probably would have been able to navigate the
tugboat, just
yeah.
a little chugging along.
Honestly, yeah, the HMS Rattler probably would have been a better choice. Because the biggest problem was they started out so late and they were moving way too slowly. Because again, the ice melted when winter came around. I mean, the ice froze when winter came around.
I was about to say, if ice was melting in winter, I have some other questions.
Man, global warming is even worse than we thought.
And we already thought it was pretty fucking bad. Look at the ocean on fire.
Yeah. So, they're just kind of moving way too slow. And as a result, so I kind of want to give you an idea of their path. So they got into Lancaster Sound and they sailed until they reached Beechy Island, which they mentioned wintering in. That was part of the plan. They get to Beechy Island, they would make winter quarters, which by this point the Royal British Navy had that down to a fucking science. This was not their first rodeo with an Arctic expedition. They knew how to do winter quarters, and they were pretty well taken care of for that period of time. They did have 3 deaths on Beechy Island. Those 3 men were buried on Beechy Island. We've actually since exhumed them, and their bodies are remarkably very well preserved due to just the fact that ice is really good at preserving
Ice
meat.
is very good at preserving bodies.
Yeah. I'm not gonna. I know that normally we do put pictures in the Discord, but there are images of the exhumed bodies, and they are very graphic. I'm not gonna lie. So, I'm not gonna put that in the Discord, just because that might be kind of triggering for some folks, which I completely understand. But if you are interested in looking at them, I really do recommend looking up Franklin Expedition Beachy Island corpses. Because they, like I said, they are remarkably well preserved. It's insane. And they've discovered from looking at them that they may have died of a combination of pneumonia and tuberculosis.
I mean, tuberculosis was killing everybody.
Yeah, so that wasn't very uncommon. The 3 deaths on Beachy Island wouldn't have raised any eyebrows, to be honest with you. But the thing is, once the ice melted for on Beachy Island, they had to get the fuck out of there really goddamn fast.
Yeah.
Like, super goddamn fast. Because they want to make it as... Again, you want to go as fast as possible before the ice freezes up again.
Yeah.
So, it just kind of wanting to illustrate how important it is to be quick whenever you're in the Arctic. Don't stand still, basically. And, of course, we also have... one of our other issues here was nature. Which is your greatest foe no matter what you're doing. Nature does not give a shit about you. There is a book called The Indifferent Stars Above, which
I love that book!
Yeah, which perfectly illustrates how much nature does not give a single red-faced shit about you and the difficulties that you're going through. It will sit there and watch you die and feel absolutely nothing.
Mother Nature's a stone cold bitch.
Yeah. And this was especially pretty bad in this particular case. Let's talk a little bit about... Remember I said that the ice masters were going to be very important?
Yeah.
Let's talk about navigating the Antarctic. So, it's the 1800s. What's your primary equipment for navigation?
The stars?
We're not... They weren't that backward. A compass.
Oh. I'm
Compasses.
sorry. I'm sorry.
No, a compass. Compass, sextant, things like that. Your main thing, though, on any ship is a compass. Well, here's the funny thing about the Antarctic.
What happened? Oh, I think I know what happened.
Do you want to take a guess?
Is it the magnetic poles were fucking with the compass so they didn't know what direction they were actually going?
Yes!
Yay!
They would have to constantly be recalculating and recalibrating their compasses and their locations. It was a constant thing. Those ice masters were invaluable in those moments. Now, nowadays, we have satellite imaging, and we can navigate through satellites. So, traversing the Arctic Circle is basically benign at this point. So, you know, good for us, not so great for them.
I mean,
They probably would have been very excited to see the magnetizing effect that was going on with their compasses. They probably wouldn't have thought that was very fun.
if they had the worst kind of attitude about it, yeah, but...
Yeah, and Lunatic Goose also raises another great point. You need an accurate clock in order to determine what your latitude is. It's like, there's a lot of things that you have to do to make sure you're going in the right direction, and you had the Arctic, which was just determined to make sure you did not successfully use any of those things that you needed. So, yeah, it kind of sucks. Also, pack ice. That thing I talked about, that puts a lot of pressure on the ships. Well, there was kind of another thing with the pack ice, is the winds. Winds would blow pack ice. See, northern winds blow pack ice towards the south whenever winter starts to hit. And that is what causes your ships to be ice locked.
Okay.
And when that pack ice is there, you ain't going fucking nowhere. You are not going anywhere at all. I'm gonna tell you that right now. You're not moving.
Okay.
And also, so normally the solution would be, well, we'll just wait it out until the summer comes, and then it'll thaw out the pack ice, and then we'll get a move on. Just like they did with Beachy Island. That was the plan whenever they got locked in the north of King William Island. This was actually an unusually cold winter in the Arctic.
Of course it was!
We have since found evidence proving that this was an unusually cold winter. And, yeah, the ice didn't melt when it was supposed to.
Of course it didn't.
that ice did not melt at all, basically. There was no movement whatsoever. They had some tools to try and cut away the ice, but I mean, you might as well have been trying to carve a life-size swan statue with a spoon, basically. Out of a block of ice the same size as you. You may as well have been trying to do that.
I mean, with my determination and stubbornness, I'm joking.
Also,
God damn it.
Also, it really fucking cold, bro.
I would imagine so.
I can't stress enough. It's really fucking cold. Not only is it really fucking cold, these men are not really equipped for just how cold it actually gets.
No one ever is.
The Inuit population is, because they use fur. The British Royal Navy did not do that. Good old-fashioned hubris.
Hubris!
Yeah, basically, so the Inuits typically use fur-lined boots, fur-lined clothing. That's how they keep themselves warm, and it's very effective. The Royal Navy had cotton, polyester, and leather boots.
I mean,
Leather boots don't keep you warm.
Yeah, leather looks cool, but it's not good for heating.
It don't keep you warm. It don't keep you warm. There's no insulation
Time to die.
whatsoever. So, yeah, so we've got nature, basically, but nature has, so at this point, nature has basically strolled up to our men, slapped on a rubber glove, looked you dead in the eye and said, drop your pants and bend over, bitch. No, there won't be no lube. So, nature has already done that. But there's other problems. There's other issues.
There always is.
Let's talk about food. Let's talk about provisions. So the tinned food that was supplied by a provisioner, Stephen Goldner. And they were commissioned for 8,000 tins of food. Again, that would have been enough for easy 3 years, 5 years if absolutely necessary. And also 8,000 tins of food is like a lot to make, especially whenever canning is just starting out.
Yeah.
Nowadays, any canning company manufacturer can churn that out basically no problem. It was a very different thing back then. Mm-hmm. Would you like to know? Okay, so I want to remind you that this expedition set sail in May of 1845. Would you like to know when the Goldner Company was commissioned to make the 8,000 tins for the expedition?
You said they left in May?
Yep.
April.
Yes, actually!
I've done enough research on these stories. I'm just like, they did it right at the last second.
Yeah, April. So understandably, this is 7 weeks before the ship was to set sail.
Of course it was.
So they're kind of rushing things. And also, remember, I can't remember who exactly said it. Please feel free to speak up in chat. I will shout you out, whoever said it. Remember that phrase, the bridge you're driving on right now was built by the cheapest person?
Yep. I remember that.
Yeah. That's kind of how government contracts work.
Yep.
You gotta buy the cheapest option. So, yeah, and also that and the haste really affected quality control.
Yeah, of course it did. That food's not going to be made very well in the early days of canning whenever you only give them a couple weeks to do it.
Mm-hmm. And the soldering was done with lead, and some of the tins were, and I am reading this verbatim, quote, thick and sloppily done and dripped like melted candle wax down the inside surface.
Of course they did.
It was a lot of lead in these cans, basically. Lunatic Goose. Yes, Lunatic Goose was the one who made that observation in another DisasterCast that the bridge you're driving every day, you drive across a bridge that was built by the lowest bidder.
I actually had a discussion with my future brother-in-law about that yesterday whenever we were going off. Sorry, continue.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So. Another thing you had to worry about is, again, haste is affecting quality control, which means that sometimes the cans will not be sealed properly. which can cause botulism, part of everyone's balanced diet. If y'all don't know what botulism is, it's fucking awful. It's horrific. It is a toxin that kills you. It will kill you. Even nowadays, if you are not immediately treated with an antitoxin, you will fucking die.
Yep.
Botulism is extremely dangerous. Please, 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 if you are getting into canning, please ensure that your cans are properly sealed, especially if there is meat in there, because if meat is improperly sealed, if meat cans are improperly sealed, you do run the risk of contracting botulism. You don't want that shit.
Yeah, your cans exploding in the pressure is not the worst thing that can happen. Botulism is.
Exactly. So, yeah, botulism. Part of everyone's balanced diet. We also have another problem, in case you haven't noticed. The men won't stop fucking dying.
I mean, what are men good for if not to die?
Yeah. Why are we put on this in this place just to suffer?
Yes.
Basically, yeah. So you remember that victory point note where it pointed out that in less than a year, 24 men had died, and I said this is not normal.
Yeah.
Plus, you know, you got the 3 men that died during the winter of 1845 to 1846, whenever they were wintering on
death
Beachy
it
Island.
is.
And, like I said, exhumation in the 1980s revealed pneumonia and tuberculosis. Mm-hmm. So why were these men that leads us to the question, why were these men dying?
I assume botulism?
Well, no, now this is the part where you say, well, why were these men dying?
Why were these
I'm so glad
men
that you
dying?
asked! I'm so glad that you asked! So, one thing we're gonna get out of the way right here and now is...
Another man died there.
So, one thing we're gonna go ahead and get out of the way is some people kind of subscribe to... This is not as common nowadays, but used to be. A lot of people subscribe to the idea that there's some kind of, you know, quote, golden bullet, the one thing that killed the men of the expedition. This is not... Let me just go ahead and tell you right now, these men did not die due to just one thing. Multiple things killed these men. We're going to make that extremely clear here and now. I don't give a shit what anybody else tells you. Multiple factors caused these men to die.
Oh, well.
So, part of it was the food that they were eating. Because there is pretty good evidence that there was an element of lead poisoning as a result of the terrible, sloppy tinning, but also there may have been foodborne illnesses as a result of the foods not being properly preserved, essentially. Why are they getting you showing up? Oh, they're dead. Why are they dead? Basically, yeah. And part of the reason why I feel that we can point to the tinned food as being part of the problem is the disproportionate death rate of the officers and the crew. Remember, we had 15 crew members and 9 officers dead. And on the surface, that sounds like, oh, well, more crewmen died. Yes. No. Nominally, yes.
Technically, yes,
crewmen.
but there's less officers on
yeah.
a ship than there are crew.
Yeah, and on this particular ship, there were 6 times more crewmen than there were officers. So if you've got 9 officers dead, you would expect that you would have 9 times that many crewmen dead. Because that would be an equal rate of approximately 33% of the men dead.
Yeah.
But that was not the case. So now you have to ask, why was there a higher rate of death among the officers?
Why was there a higher rate of death among the officers?
Well, that what I wasn't actually prompting, but thank you for that. I feel like this is evidence that there was a problem with the food and it was making people sick and was contributing to their deaths, because the officers were more likely to be eating the canned food. The canned food was more expensive. So, and it was considered the better quality. Naturally, that's going to go to the officers.
Because, you know...
Yeah, because fuck the crew, basically. Fuck the crew, the officers are rich. A tale as old as time. Fuck you, we're rich.
Time.
Pretty much, yeah. So, the officers were more likely to be eating this expensive canned food, which is why I do feel the canned food did contribute pretty heavily to all of the deaths.
Suicide.
There probably was also suicide. Not gonna lie.
I was just talking about Joker, but okay.
Yeah. So the officers would have had more exposure both to the risk of botulism, but also the lead within the food itself. But the food was not the only place we could find lead. Lead was also in the water pipes itself.
Of course they were.
The water pipes that were used for the distillation were made out of lead. And lead, here's how lead gets into water. Lead gets into water whenever you have certain circumstances.
Uh-huh.
One of them being that the pipes are brand new, so a protective layer of corrosion hasn't built up yet.
Oh, yeah.
And these lead pipes were brand new. But then also, whenever water has been recently distilled, so newly distilled water is considered soft water. That basically just eats away at the chemicals in the pipes like nobody's business. It was kind of a perfect storm, really. Mm-hmm. This crew was getting a lot of lead in their diet, more so than you would normally see even in Victorian England.
And you saw a lot of it in Victorian England.
You did, actually. There was, like, high concentrations of lead in the bones was not uncommon in Victorian England.
A lot of it was in the makeup.
Yep, that's also true. And
I know things.
yeah. Now, let me make something very clear. I don't feel that lead poisoning I don't think that lead poisoning specifically killed any members of the crew. That is one thing I do want to clarify. The reason why I feel that way is because lead poisoning takes a very long time to kill. And you got to remember, we've had about 11 months and 24 people dying. That's really fast for lead poisoning. But there's some side effects of lead poisoning, which we're going to get into in a little bit. But let's put a pin in the fact that lead poisoning likely played a role in it, but it likely did not actively kill anyone. More possible explanations for direct deaths were possible outbreaks of tuberculosis, because remember, the three men on Beachy Island looked like they had died of tuberculosis. Mm-hmm. Tuberculosis is a breakout thing.
Yeah.
Like, more than one person gets it when it's out.
I was about to say, with TB, like, it's not this person got TB, it's this whole building or this whole group got TB.
Essentially, yeah. Tuberculosis is like the stomach flu. You never say, yeah, one member of my family got the stomach flu. You say my entire family got the stomach flu.
Same thing happened with us in COVID.
Yeah, basically. So, you got that. Plus, you got this cold weather, which very likely caused pneumonia among the crew. And their immune systems would have been weaker than normal because of that higher concentration of lead. Also, I cannot stress this enough. It was fucking cold. Really goddamn cold.
Yeah, bacteria is killed by heat, not cold.
And there is a particularly virulent strain of botulism that exists in the Arctic region and is most prevalent in the seals in the area. And if you do not know how to properly prepare the meat of the seal, you will get that botulism and you will fucking die. You will die. So, yeah. We're just in a really bad... Basically, this place wanted them dead.
And it did not care how it got there.
Essentially. However, all of that being said, the most likely candidate to have killed... While we're just making the death superlatives here, the disease voted most likely to have killed the majority of the men is... Take a guess.
Syphilis. I don't know.
No.
Pneumonia.
No, we already covered pneumonia, but no, there's something else that probably killed the majority of them.
Can I get a hint?
Remember I said we needed to put a pin in certain aspects of the provisions?
Botulism?
No.
I don't know.
Scurvy.
Oh, yeah!
Remember that vitamin C that I said was super, super important?
Yeah.
Vicky B, thank you very much for the 6 months. It's very awesome. So, yeah. Scurvy. The thing that sailors fear the most, and for very good reason.
Always eat your oranges, kids.
Yeah, always eat your oranges. Always, always. Get plenty of vitamin C, everybody. It's very important. So, scurvy is gonna cause some pretty harsh symptoms. Your gums turn black and they soften. You lose teeth as a result. Your body essentially breaks down and starts fighting itself, essentially.
Oh, that's always a fun description in a disease. When your
Yeah.
body is killing itself.
Essentially, yes. Internal bleeding is extremely common, as well as internal hemorrhaging. It eats away at your skin. Your skin is not as resilient to any types of damages or, prevailing cold Arctic winds that are blowing in from all areas. You're gonna lose teeth. Eventually, you will be racked with pain just from every single movement that you make, to the point where you're just unable to move. You have absolutely no strength whatsoever, and you just lay down and die. And that's how scurvy works. And it's awful.
It sounds like it.
Scurvy's pretty terrible. Now, that bottled lemon juice was something that had been used by the Royal Navy to help offset scurvy. The thing is, bottled lemon juice loses potency over time. That was where those tinned veggies and fruits were supposed to come in to help keep that vitamin C level high. Remember I said let's put a pin in that? Yeah, remember whenever the cans weren't all that great?
I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's say instead of opening up a tin of vegetables, instead of seeing fresh veggies, you see mold.
Oh, that's always fun.
Yeah. And that was a pretty common occurrence. Yeah.
This is why you get provisions done in advance with more than a couple weeks.
Yep. And with all of that, all of those different aspects kind of affecting things, we also had one really big decision that, in my personal opinion, ultimately sealed the crew's fate. Despite everything else that we've talked about, I feel like we can point to one decision that killed the entire crew.
Make first contact with aliens.
No, that would be that totally worth it, though, if that had been the case. And that decision was... See, when they approached King William Island...
God!
Remember I said they left Beachy Island, and they sailed to the northern coast of King William Island.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the time, in 1846, this place was not called King William Island. This was called King William Land. And we actually didn't know that it was an island. And neither did the crew of the Erebus and the Terror. So Sir John Franklin, whenever they reached King William Island, they had a choice. Again, we don't know that it's an island. I don't doubt for a second that the possibility had been presented to Franklin, but as far as we knew, all we knew at the time was that it was King William Land and probably connected to the mainland of Canada. So, we can go south because, hey, maybe it is an island, which means that we can sail
Around it?
Yeah, we can kind of sail around it, go down the south. We're not in the further, colder northern region, basically.
Yeah.
We're further south where it's a little bit warmer. We could go that way. Or we go north because we know that there's a northern coastline. That area has actually had some mapping out, more so than the south did. So at that point, Franklin had a choice. Go north or go south. Would you like to take a guess at what he chose?
Sorry, I just had a huge moment of deja vu. I would suggest that he went north to where we know things are.
You would be correct.
Okay.
For once, he doesn't get all, but the joy of adventure. Like, for once,
Yeah.
Yeah, he went north. Now, let me make something clear. Even though I do feel that this is ultimately the decision that killed the crew, I don't look at this as, haha, Franklin, you fucking loser idiot. Because we only know this for the benefit of hindsight. That's the only reason why we know that it was King William Island and not King William Land. But that being said, because he went north, he put the ships in the most dangerous area of the strait that they were navigating.
Of course he did!
And this was at the exact time of year when the pack ice was moving south.
Of course it was.
Had they gone south, they would have not only discovered that it was actually King William Island, but they also would have avoided the pack ice that was being blown south by the northern winds. And they actually probably would have made it out to the other side.
And we wouldn't be talking about the Franklin expedition.
We would be anytime anyone talked about the Franklin expedition, it'd be, yeah, let me tell you this boring story about the time an expedition went well. Yeah, that's the thing. He couldn't have known. In his defense, there was no way he could have known this. So let me just make that very clear. But the fact remains, this decision did ultimately kill the crew. Because, in my opinion, because the ships got locked into place in September 1846, and there they fucking stayed. That right there.
Well, men, this is where we die.
Basically, yes. And again, remember, we have very, very cold, unusually cold winters. The ice is not melting in the summertime. It was a combination of both nature putting its middle finger, its lightning bolt flinging middle finger up at you, and also just bad choices on the parts of the people. Which is very sad. So, yeah, there they stayed from 1846 until the decision in 1848 to abandon ship. And this comes to the section of the story I call Fuck It, We'll Walk. Fuck it, we'll walk. Now, by this point, Franklin is dead. Franklin's dead, 9 officers are dead, 14 crew members are dead. Shit's getting bad. Oh, there's more, Angel. We're not stopping. We're not. This adventure has not stopped yet. So in April 1848, after 1 year and 7 months of being trapped in the ice of King William Island, Crozier made the decision to abandon the ships and begin marching south to Backsfish River, and then across the river to the Canadian mainland to possible help from one of the Hudson's Bay Company outposts that he knew was further south.
Okay. I mean, sound plan.
You would fucking think so. You would fucking think so at first glance. But when you learn more about it, you're sitting there going, okay, but fucking why? Why did you make this decision? Now, Franklin, I will give him the benefit of the doubt. There was no way he could have known it was actually King William Island. Crozier, on the other hand, this was a stupid move. This was the stupidest thing he could have possibly, in my humble opinion.
In my
humble opinion.
Humble.
In my humble opinion, this was the stupidest decision he could have possibly made. Because Backsfish River was 200 miles to the south. And
That
then,
seems like a huge discrepancy.
and then, you got another 800 miles on top of that to get to the fucking outpost. 1,000 miles south, you are going to march with 109 men.
Who are already hungry?
I mean, they're not really hungry, but they do have lead poisoning and scurvy.
Who are already... You're gonna march 1,000 miles with men who are already kind of fucked up.
Yeah, basically. They're already in pretty bad shape, and you're going to march 1,000 miles.
Yes.
Not only are you going to mail, not only are you going to
You're going to mail these men to safety!
Man, if only.
I mean, we've mailed children before, why
Yeah.
not?
So while you're doing this, by the way, while you're doing this march, this forced march of hell, and I'm saying this as a person who has done a forced march and knows that it's absolute hell, this would be a hell I couldn't even imagine. On top of that, you remember when I said we're going to Backsfish River?
Yeah.
And how we got to get across the river to the Canadian mainland?
Yes.
Well, you gotta sail. You gotta sail down that river to get to the Canadian mainland, right? So you're gonna need boats to do that, right?
I would hope so.
Your giant fucking boats! Your 8-ton boats! Well, not 8 tons, but at least a ton heavy boats.
Your paperweights with sails on them.
Oh no, not the actual ships. I'm talking about the lifeboats, basically.
Ah.
Yeah. So they pulled the lifeboats on sledges
Okay.
for 1,000 fucking miles. That was the plan. Haul some boats over the ice for 1,000 fucking miles. That's the plan. That's our plan.
I
It's
mean,
a great plan.
what's your plan, Bird?
I'm glad you asked. I'm gonna get.
I was joking.
I'm actually gonna get to that. Yeah. So yeah, you gotta pull the massive boats on the sledges because surprise, you gotta sail down the goddamn river.
Why would you do that?
I mean, bringing the boats did make sense. Like I said, you have to sail down the river.
No, why would you sail down a river? That seems stupid.
Well, you gotta row. You gotta. Well, they're not gonna swim. It's fucking cold. Have you not been listening?
I've been fading in and out.
Fair enough. So, do you remember the wintering at Beachy Island?
Yes.
And I also want to stress this was 1848. Expeditions, survival, rescue expeditions had been sent out by this point. The Admiralty was mobilizing search parties.
So people actually kind of gave a shit.
Yeah, people were people were going in the same direction that Franklin had gone. They were locked out by the packed ice, but they were going in that direction. But also, they had wintered at Beachy Island. And remember when I said they had to leave really quickly?
Yeah.
There were still a lot of supplies there at Beachy Island. There were supplies. Their winter quarters were still there, which were sturdily built, because again, the Royal Navy had that down to a science by that point. And also, at some point, ship leadership had to have realized, wait a minute, search parties are probably out, and they're probably going to go the same route that we took. Had they gone north, back toward Beachy Island, they possibly could have made it back to Beachy Island. They may have actually run into one of the search expeditions and been saved.
So they were literally walking away from salvation?
They were genuinely walking away from salvation.
Ain't that a bitch?
Pretty much. So, yeah. So now the question becomes, Crozier, what the fuck?
Is that going to be a recurring question?
A little bit, not gonna lie. So, why would they do that? Why the fuck would Crozier make that decision? We have a couple of possible answers as to why he decided that. Crozier knew that there was more fertile hunting to the south, and they probably had surmised by this point that the tinned food was making them sick. There's a pretty good likelihood they may have figured out that something was wrong with the food.
I hope so.
So there was more fertile hunting to the south and a better chance of fresh meat. And there was also a chance that on the trek south, they might run into some friendly Inuit communities who could assist them, give them food maybe, and help them get messages to, basically help them get to messages to send help. So, and also, and this in my opinion is the stupidest one, he probably also wanted to complete the mission in Franklin's name.
Oh, that male hubris.
Don't you just fucking love male hubris, I'm telling you. So, yeah. Couple of factors. But also another strange decision. The crew loaded up these boats with the most random fucking things. They left food and drinking water behind. Listen, I know the food is probably making you sick, but you have to make a choice at a certain point. Would you rather have food that might be giving you a slow-moving degenerative disease, or no food at all?
I mean,
personally, I'd risk the spoiled food. I would genuinely risk it over no food at all.
yeah.
But they didn't do that. Instead, they loaded their boats up with a writing desk, plates, curtain rods.
Plates for the food you don't have!
Plates for the food you don't fucking have! Yeah.
Sorry, that's funny.
So again, just really weird decision making all around, right? So I guess this is probably a good time to talk about some of the side effects of lead poisoning. Lead poisoning! One of the most debilitating degenerative diseases of all time. But wait, order now, and you can get the following for free. Excruciating pain, neuroses, wasting away, disorientation, muscle paralysis, a weakened immune system, and inflammation of the nerves and brain, causing impaired judgment, paranoia, and just overall not really working at 100% when it comes to figuring out the best way to escape a deadly environment that you are so woefully unprepared for. I actually do think that lead poisoning may have played a part in Crozier's decision. I think he made the decision while impaired. And everybody else was impaired. And also, Royal British Navy is very big on their, the concept of, like, you do what the commanding officer says, nobody would have, like, very few people would have questioned his decision.
Well, time for death.
Both you and the crew. So, basically what you've got now is you've got 109 men. They have lead poisoning. They have scurvy.
Okay.
They've probably got some tuberculosis. There's definitely pneumonia. Most of them have definitely lost fingers to frostbite by this point.
Oh, great.
And between frostbite, hypothermia, lead poisoning, scurvy, and just a complete total lack of preparations for a onshore trek over the icy plains, there was no possible way these men could have been expected to survive this journey.
I mean, not with that kind of attitude.
Yeah. Because remember, this expedition was not outfitted for a icy trek across the plains. This expedition was outfitted for just to be on the water. They were not expecting these men to decide to walk 1,000, literally.
I would walk 500.
They were not expecting these men to decide, yes, this is the time to start reenacting that Proclaimers song. They did not expect that to happen. So, yeah, they just were not in a situation where they could have reasonably expected that they would have actually survived this. This was 100%.
This lead balloon of a story is affecting my own brain functions.
Yeah. So, yeah, you could call it a disaster. Yeah, fingers, toes, nose tips, all of them gone. And by the way, fun thing about frostbite is whenever let's say you get the tip of your finger frostbite, right?
Get your finger away from my face.
Sorry. Let's say that you get the tip of your finger frostbite, right? The thing is, that skin is gonna die. It becomes necrotic, however you pronounce it, and basically you can just kind of take a saw and just saw that right off.
Yep.
Because there is no air flowing between the dead skin and your living skin, so in order to save the rest of your finger, you have to cut the tip off. That's why amputation is a thing in frostbite situations.
And it's actually a very important thing.
It is extremely important. So, it's also a pretty good likelihood that these men were, like, cutting each other's fingers off, cutting each other's toes off, cutting each other's nose tips
If
off.
someone cuts someone's dick off, I swear to God, they will be my hero.
I'm pretty sure probably somebody did at some point.
Yes.
It's probably safe to assume. So,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm suiciding.
Okay. So, yeah, they were basically, these men were screwed. I don't know any gentle way to put this. These men were screwed.
They were fucked.
Basically, yeah. And it would have been fucking miserable. Like, so goddamn miserable. Like, what a miserable fucking way to die, you know? As a prolific, once prolific streamer would say, it's miserable. Just absolutely miserable. So, yeah, we got a crew full of people leaving the ship. They're not going to survive. And interestingly enough, we have absolutely no more, at least not right now, we don't have any more journals or diaries or any type of documentation on the rest of their journey. We have no idea what happened. We just know that they're all dead. We can only piece together evidence that we found.
I mean, that's all the insurance collectors want to know before they pay out to the widows.
So actually, family members.
God!
So actually, family members of the crew that died. Apparently, some of them have, kids who have said that. Oh yeah, my dad said that he was a relative of. He was like sons and family members, immediate family members of the crew, actually had a hell of a time trying to get their money from the government. Because government gonna government.
Yeah.
How do we know which direction they went? So
I assume the placement of their bodies that we eventually found?
well, and also remember, Crozier had left a note. Fitzjames and Crozier had left a note after the decision was made to abandon ship, saying that they were going to be heading towards Backfish River.
Oh.
And we actually do have some evidence that says they did decide to do that they did go in that direction. So, we got a bunch of men who are just not equipped to survive this journey, and all the remaining men died. But never fear, folks! We do still have just for some cannibalism.
We always
Yes,
do, don't we?
We always have in any disaster survival situation. There's always just a little bit of time for cannibalism. Da da da.
Okay, let's get Donner Party on these motherfuckers.
We about to get Donner Party on all this on this shit. Yeah, ain't no party like a Donner Party. Bird, would you eat your sister? We've actually already agreed that if one of us dies in a starvation situation, then in order for the other one to not starve to death, we've both agreed. Yeah, like we have an agreement. If I die, Kayla is to eat me, and if Kayla dies, I'm to eat her to survive. That's actually something we've discussed.
Bird would be the one better off because I'm the fatter of us two.
Well, actually, you'd be more likely to. I would be more likely to die than first than you would.
Well, yeah, but if it came to a situation where I were to die first, then you would be better off.
I would be, yes. Because fat is actually the very important thing that your body needs in order to convert food into fuel.
Also, if you're eating the body of someone who is already starved to death, go for their bone marrow. That's the most nutritious part.
Yep, that is absolutely true. Crack the bones open and suck on the marrow.
Anyway.
Yeah, so anyway. In 1854, Dr. John Ray, who was surveying the Boothia Peninsula for the Harbor Bay Company, remember that one that we talked about that Crozet thought was going to be their salvation? He met an Inuit near Pelly Bay who had told him of a party of 35 to 40 white men who had died of starvation near the mouth of the Back River.
Why'd you have
They
to clarify
made it! That's the crazy thing. They made it to the Backfish River.
How?
I mean, that was just the 200-mile trek. They still had the 800 miles to go.
Oh, okay, then it's fine.
Yeah, no, they still had the 800 miles to go. Let's make that very clear. So, yeah, a party of about 35 to 40 white men had died of starvation near the mouth of the Backfish River, and other Inuit did confirm this story, and they reported signs of cannibalism amongst the sailors, and provided trinkets and other objects that definitely did belong to Franklin and his men. Specifically, they were able to provide some silver spoons that had the engravings of the 3 officers. So basically the initial engravings, indicating who the spoons and silverware belonged to.
Yeah.
And as well as, like, buttons and little collar, basically little trinkets that they would wear on their uniforms. They had those.
The things they took instead of food?
Yeah. So, Dr. John Ray, who also was very interested in locating the, he was actually one of the explorers who was also trying to help find the Franklin expedition and find out what had happened to him. By now, they had been declared dead. They had been declared officially dead. This was 1854. We did not find we didn't find that note, the Victory Point note, until 1859. Mm-hmm. They've been declared dead by this point. So, Dr. John Ray reported his findings to the Admiralty to let them know, hey, I've got some information. By the way, they totally ate each other, according to the Inuits. This was a pretty big problem. Because, see, nowadays, I feel like in more modern society, the idea of cannibalism is a little bit more accepted.
Yeah, I mean, the soccer players from the Andes weren't vilified whenever it came out that they ate the dead.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that as in, like, just cannibalism just for the fun of it. We've pretty well accepted that sometimes cannibalism in a starvation survival situation is going to happen. We've pretty well accepted that as a reality. Most people, I feel, do not have as much of a problem with it nowadays as we used to have. But oh dear God, did we have a really big problem with it before now. Holy shit, did we ever. So, this cannibalism, so whenever it was reported that the crew might have engaged in cannibalism, everyone started flipping the fuck out like absolutely fucking not. There's no way that they did that. Basically, I'm gonna be honest, y'all, there was good old-fashioned racism involved in this. Their mindset was there was no way that good, white, purebred English gentlemen would ever resort to cannibalism under any circumstances, and these... Charles Dickens himself even said, we will believe the words of white people who've actually been in this situation over the words of a savage community with a domesticity of blood and blubber.
Yeah, that sounds
Charles
about right.
Dickens basically said...
He was a dick.
Yeah, Charles Dickens basically said, fuck these Inuits, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So,
Fuck these Inuits because they're not white.
pretty much, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It was basically, fuck them, they're not white, they don't know what they're talking about. So most people did not believe that, and John Ray was disgraced because of his findings. He was never knighted, he did not get any recognition, and basically he was told, shut the fuck up, you're a fucking liar, they would never do that. These men were like, you gotta remember, these men were like the astronauts of their day. That's how big this whole thing was, essentially. And, like, imagine if we were told that the people on the International Space Station had just started eating each other. We would think that that was fucking insane. Like, no, they would never do that. These are scientific people. Why would they do that, basically?
Yeah.
So, and we would consider it insulting, to be honest, to be told that. So that's how the English felt by these stories, by the story of the cannibalism. Well,
Suicide!
well, here's the thing. We have since discovered more bones and remains of the members of the crew over the last 150 years. We have found skeletal remains, we found signs of camps. There was cannibalism, y'all.
I mean, I don't doubt it.
They absolutely, in their last desperate hours, they ate each other.
To avoid that botulism, you cannibalize.
Yeah. And some of our modern day expeditions and our modern day discoveries and findings, we have actually been able to use, thanks to modern day technology, we've been able to use DNA testing to prove that certain members are, that certain skeletons are dead crew members, because we do still have some of their descendants who are alive, so we're able to do a genetic matching and things like that. So, yeah, they ate each other. Not only did they eat each other, but some of the remains that have been found, show evidence of the hands and the feet being cut away, as well as the heads. These are the most humanizing aspects of the human body, and they were likely cut away.
I don't want to look at my dead friend while I eat them.
You don't want to look your dead friend in the eye while you're eating him. Is basically the case. Now, there are still some Englishmen who still believe that. I've watched a ton of documentaries for this episode, as well as the AMC miniseries on the Terror, and some still believe that there was not cannibalism. They think that the cutting of the hands and the feet and the face were actually signs of an attack, and of course they say it must have been the Inuit tribe. I think that this theory is rooted
sounded like some racism right there.
I do think this theory is rooted in racism, I'm gonna be honest with you. Because the far more likely... At a certain point, everyone, Occam's razor does need to come into effect, which says that the simplest answer is oftentimes the correct answer. These men were cutting away the recognizable parts of their friends because they were having to eat them to survive. And I don't say this to shame the men.
No, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, you do what you gotta do. Also, the Inuit were a nomadic tribe. They didn't really like hunting parties. Like, hunting parties were like seal hunting parties.
Yeah, they didn't hunt humans.
That wasn't really their thing.
They were hunting the animals to eat.
Yeah, like, the Inuit wouldn't have even bothered. If any Inuit did come across the men, which there is evidence that some Inuit did come across the men,
They probably offered them help.
well, they might have given them a little bit to eat, but they simply wouldn't have had enough to supply 109 men in addition to feeding their own families. These people would have actually had to make the very, very difficult decision to leave these men, which was probably, like I said, a very difficult decision to make. And also, again, did not make the Inuit very popular, because, like, how could you let our good, purebred white men die? Basically.
Because I got a family to feed too.
Essentially, yes. I'm gonna take a drink real quick.
Having fun being in my place, Bart?
Yeah, actually, this is fun.
It is fun.
Yeah. Plus, this ship would have had Royal Marines who would have been tasked with protecting the crew members and would have had guns. So, just the idea that the mutilation of the bodies came from an Inuit attack, honestly, is just fucking laughable, and it's buried in racism. I was gonna call a spade, it's fucking racism.
Why racism from the British people? I'm surprised.
I know, right? So, yeah. Hey, speaking of modern day expeditions, guess what?
What?
We've actually found the Erebus and the Terror.
Holy shit, seriously?
Yeah, we actually have found the ships. The Erebus was found in 2014, and the Terror was found in 2016. So very, very recently, we found them. And here is one of the best parts. I swear to God, I did not make this up because I could not make this up. The Terror was found in Terror Bay. I'm totally serious.
Bitch!
I know, I could not make this up! We found the Terror in Terror Bay. That isn't, like, you cannot make that shit up. But another interesting thing, and this adds to, see, this is why this whole thing is shrouded in a lot of mystery. Again, we don't have all of the, we don't have much evidence for what happened because we haven't found any documentation or journaling.
Well, they were probably too busy trying to eat and survive.
Good likelihood, yes. But there is a possibility. Any journals are probably somewhere in the mainland of King William Island. And there are expeditions pretty much constantly to see what else we can find. There's a lot of people very interested in finding out what happened to the Franklin expedition.
Like
personally, yeah, I'm one of them. I really want to know what. I want to know.
I want to know.
Yeah, basically, I really want to know. Yeah, the Terror and the Erebus have both been very, very well preserved, which is very exciting because we may find some more evidence of things that took place. We won't be able to find any writing because they're under the sea, but.
Under the sea.
Yeah, but, you know, who knows what we could find out. Yeah, journals might have been burned for heat, or they may just be lost somewhere in the mainland and we just haven't found them yet. There's a lot of answers as to why we haven't found any journaling yet. But interestingly enough, in regards to the Erebus and the Terror, they were found very far away from the spot where they froze in place. Terror Bay is on the western side of King William Island, and then the place where the Erebus was found was about 100 kilometers farther west. And it was very far away from where they had frozen in place. This indicates that maybe some of the men were actually left aboard the ship to try and move if the ice ever did thaw.
I mean, yeah.
Or it's possible that some of the crew may have returned to the ship. And, now this is a very interesting thing. A few Inuit they did give accounts of visiting the Terror while it was up. Now, remember how we talked about how ship sinking can be very, very slow? That's whenever, like, something hits the ship. Mm-hmm. But if the ship's just sitting there, that sinking is even slower. And there were some Inuits who reported having visited the Terror while it was in the process of sinking. So, and interestingly enough, hang on, let me pull up my notes on this because this is particularly interesting. Give me just one moment. I've just got to pull up a specific note on this one. It's gonna take me a minute to pull up what I need.
Well, suicide it is.
Eh. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little bit quiet, y'all. I'm just I can't find the exact place where I found it. But so essentially, around 1850, a small band of Inuit did visit the. They did just kind of happen upon the Terror, and they went.
They were
on
walking
board to-
along one day, and it just happened to cross their path.
Yeah, so they went on board to see, if anyone was there, what was going on. They found all of the people inside dead, and there was a fire still going in the stove.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's creepy as fuck. It's possible, and again, these are possibilities, and you do need to remember these are Inuit testimonies. And while I don't see any reason for the Inuit to have lied, you got to remember that a lot of these testimonies are passed down through oral history tradition, and oral history is the quickest way to get history swapped around. This could have been another ship that they had gone to, so I do want to stress that this could have been a different ship. But imagine how interesting that would be if it was the Terror that they were on in 1850, and there was still a fire going. That would have indicated that those men had just died.
Damn.
Yeah. This should be a zombie movie. I know, right? So we're gonna do so to kind of sum everything up, we're gonna do a quick breakdown of basically.
You're gonna do a quick
I'm gonna do a breakdown. I'm going to do a breakdown of the timeline, basically. So, we got 1845, 19th of May, Franklin expedition sails from England. 1845 in July, the expedition docks in Greenland. They send home 5 men and a batch of letters. In the 28th of July of that same year, last sighting of the expedition by Europeans, and that is a whaling ship in Baffin Bay. 1845 to 1846, the expedition winters on Beechy Island. 3 crew members die of tuberculosis and are buried. In 1846, Erebus and Terror leave Beechy Island. They sail down Peel Sound toward King William Island, which at the time was still King William Land. In 1846, on the 12th of September, ships are trapped in the ice off of King William Island. 1846 to 1847, the expedition winters on King William Island. In 1847, on the 28th of May, a sledge party, led by Lieutenant Graham Gore and mate Charles DeVoe, leaves identical notes at Victory Point and Gore Point, both of which concluded that all was well. Those are the notes that's the first note that I read to you all earlier, saying that Sir John Franklin was in command. Mm-hmm. The 11th of June, 1847, Franklin dies. Yeah. 1847 to 1848, the expedition again has to winter off of King William Island after the ice fails to thaw in the summer of 1847. On the 22nd of April, 1848, Erebus and Terror are abandoned after 1 year and 7 months trapped in the ice. On the 25th of April, the date of the second note saying 24 men have died, and the survivors plan to start marching south on the 26th of April to Baxfish River. Somewhere in the 1850s, according to testimony, Inuit have boarded an abandoned ship, which is icebound off of King William Island. In that same year, apparently, some Inuit reported seeing 40 men walking south on King William Island. In 1851, Inuit hunters report seeing 4 men still trying to head south. This is the last verified sighting of survivors, as reported to another explorer named Charles Hall. And that's the last verified sighting that we have. In 1852 to 1858, and this is interesting, Inuit may have possibly seen Francis Crozier and one other survivor, presumably Surgeon MacDonald, much further south in the Baker Lake area. In 1854, John Ray interviews local Inuit who give him items from the expedition and tell him that the men starved to death after resorting to cannibalism. In 1859, McClintock finds the abandoned boat and the messages on an Admiralty form in a cairn on King William Island. That's the 2 notes that I read to you at the start of the story. From 1860 to 1869, Hall leads 2 expeditions. Captain Hall leads 2 expeditions in search of Franklin records, and in 1869 finds remains.
69.
He finds some remains that are tentatively identified as Lieutenant Le Viscount of the HMS Erebus. He returns the remains to England. In 1878 to 1880, Frederick Schwata leads an expedition in search of Franklin records, and he finds some remains that have been identified as Lieutenant John Irving of the HMS Terror, and those remains are returned to Scotland. In 1981 to 1982, Owen Beatty leads forensic teams retracing steps taken by McClintock and Schwata expeditions. Oh, sorry, this is 1981.
I was about to say,
Yeah, this is 100 years in the future. 1981. In 1984 to 1986, the Beachy Island graves are opened by Beatty's team, and the bodies are examined. That's the those are the mummified bodies. They're very remarkably well preserved.
Cole does that.
In 2009, remains were found by Hall in 1869, and they were positively identified as Assistant Surgeon Harry Goodser of the HMS Erebus.
Good sir. I see you, good sir. Sorry, continue.
No, you're fine, you're fine. In 2014, the wreck of the Erebus was found in Wilmot and Crampton Bay. In 2016, the wreck of the Terror was found in Terror Bay. And in 2021, the remains that had been found by McClintock in 1859 are positively identified as engineer John Gregory of the HMS Erebus. We are currently doing, we have been doing dives to better explore the Erebus and the Terror, to find out more information, not just of what happened to the crew, but also of the time period and, you know, just all that good stuff.
History and shit.
Yeah, history and shit. That has been waylaid by fucking COVID, because fucking COVID is ruining everything. But those diving expeditions should be resuming shortly.
So, male hubris kills us all.
Yeah, so what have we learned here today?
Male hubris kills us all.
Kind of, not gonna lie. And also Sir Lady Jane. Sir Lady Jane.
Sir Lady Jane Frost in her name.
But this is actually a good time to talk about, I did mention the magical polar bear, and I guess now's probably the time to talk about that.
Can we talk about aliens? Did the aliens do it?
No.
Aliens abducted them.
I think that is one of the theories.
I do not doubt it.
I mean, it would make sense if it was. So, yeah. So, there is a miniseries by AMC called The Terror. And it's meant to be more of a horror anthology, but the first season deals with the HMS Erebus and the HMS Terror and the events that took place. So, it's not bad.
The fact that you had to pause to get the energy to say that.
It is actually genuinely a good, it's a genuinely good series.
But
there's one big problem that I have with it. And, I'm just gonna spoil it because fuck all of you. I'm just gonna tell you so that you can just prepare for this.
don't speak to the viewers that way.
Well, I actually do recommend watching this miniseries either way. It's just, I'm just gonna tell you this ahead of time so you can decide if you still want to watch it. They included something, so the miniseries is based off of a book, which is a historical fiction account of what took place with the Erebus and the Terror, and it is called The Terror.
Okay.
And in both the book and the show, they included an Inuit shaman who has control of a magical polar bear
Racism!
that ultimately is what kills most of the members of the crew.
So racism.
I really, really hate this decision. I hate this decision so much. I hate that they did this. I don't know why they felt the need to do this. This is a good horror story if you just talk about the... I mean, I just got done just explaining to you some of the shit these people went through.
Yeah.
How fucking terrifying was this to hear some of this shit?
I mean, scurvy is scary.
Yeah. Scurvy is terrifying.
And again, children, your can exploding in the pressure is not the worst thing that can happen when canning. Botulism is.
Yeah. Yeah, and also one part of it was the Dr. Goodser wanted to fuck her while he was developing a dictionary of her language. There's a lot of racism and white saviorism in
Wait,
this.
what?
Yeah. Dr. Gitzer is like the embodiment of the white savior complex, and I hate it. And, yeah, so basically they decide that the magical... They make a magical polar bear that is controlled by the Lady Silence, because they killed her father, and she can't control the monster because I don't know why.
Is this the plot of season 8 of Game of Thrones?
That would make sense, not gonna lie.
It's sounding like it.
Yeah. So, but that being said, aside from the magical polar bear, there are actually genuine, like, I'm not joking, the AMC, miniseries is genuinely very good. Aside from the magical polar bear.
I'm pretty sure people said the same thing about Lost.
Probably. But in this case, I do genuinely think that, I do genuinely think that it's a good, series, and I do think that you should watch it. Yeah, the last hour gets kind of weird, not gonna lie. And yet, to their credit, they're not gonna make you wait fucking forever to see the goddamn monster. So, you know, I'll give them credit for that. But there is exploration of the fact that the lead was probably poisoning the crew members. There's exploration of the idea that the cans of food had gone off, they were spoiled, and they weren't improperly cooked. And there is also exploration of the idea that scurvy also played a role. And it really, I think it does a very good job humanizing the crew members and making you feel for the fact that they went through this horrific experience. So you know, I think it's very good. And it's a miniseries, it's only one season. I mean, I binged it in 2 nights. I had it completely binged because I was very invested. The acting is really good, the characters are really well written. It's got some pretty good twists, actually, that I like. And it's one of the great things about the story of the Terror is, even though I've given you all the information that I have, you gotta admit, there's some pretty massive gaps in the middle of all of it.
Yeah, like, okay, and then what?
Yeah. And, aside from the magical polar bear, the AMC miniseries actually does, do a really good job filling in some of those gaps and speculating on what may have happened, interactions between crew members, things like that. There's,
drawing of straws to see who's gonna get eaten first.
Actually, yeah.
I was fucking joking!
Yeah. And it just, like I said, there are genuinely good, stories within the story, and the cast is amazing. The characters are so well written. I think there's...
The guy who played Moriarty? Oh, I'm invested.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy who played Moriarty was in the miniseries.
I love him.
There was a dude that tried to save them by burning them all because he realized that it was completely hopeless, and so he decided he was going to set fire to everything.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I would probably get to the point of being that person.
Oh yeah, I would not do well in a survival situation at all.
Me neither. I'm like, well, I'm gonna die. Who's gonna go with me?
Yeah, basically.
That would be my last charitable act. You could share the gun after I shoot myself.
Yeah. There's a couple of minor historical inaccuracies besides the magic fucking polar bear. But one big thing about the miniseries, the AMC miniseries, is that it does a very, very good job of being historically accurate in regards to, you know, crew members and rank and things like that, how discipline was maintained on the ship, all that good stuff.
Oh, the doctor who stole a woman's body because he loved her beauty, that was a Spanish doctor. He actually kept the body for, I think, 20 years, and he was only found out whenever his neighbors were reporting that it looked like he was dancing with a mannequin, and the woman's sister was the one who found out that he had stolen her corpse and was using it.
Pardon?
Yes! That happened! Carl Tanzler, that's it!
Oh, God.
Yeah, he was a German immigrant, but I think this happened in, like, Spain. Yeah. And I am willing to watch the miniseries just because Andrew Scott is there.
Fair enough, fair enough.
You're happy with someone watching the series purely because they think one of the leads is attractive, and they just want to stare at them.
I mean, I'm fine with that. As long as you watch a good miniseries.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, Izzy, no, Andrew Scott did not play Crozier. Crozier was played by Jared Harris.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I
That guy
thought
right there.
it was somewhere in the islands. I thought that happened. I don't know. Maybe I don't have the article right in front of me. I don't know I don't know the details. It happened in Florida. Of course it did.
That's basically, yeah.
Well, I mean, the only reason that we have the whole Florida man trope as an idea in society is because of Florida's sunshine laws.
Yeah?
Which, for anyone who doesn't know, Florida's sunshine law it basically means that anything that gets entered into court record automatically becomes public record, pretty much no matter what. So any arrest or weird shit that happens can be accessed by the public. Now, this is not a thing for the rest of the states. I don't entirely know why, but I know that the reason we have Florida man as an idea is because Florida's sunshine law allows us to access to all of their arrest information, all the weird shit that happens, so we have the ability to report on it. And the fact is, all this weird shit does kind of happen in the rest of the United States. It's just Florida's the only one we hear from because of the sunshine law.
That is really weird.
Yeah.
That's insane. I did not know that.
Yeah. That's why Florida man is a thing.
I'm the North Carolina man, by the way.
Yeah, we know.
So, yeah, that's the story of the Franklin expedition. And we may very well find more documentation within the mainland, if it hasn't already been burned for heat. But until then, what happened to them shall remain a morbid mystery.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody dies in the end. Everybody died.
It's just we're trying to figure out how exactly they died.
And there's a lot of different theories, and personally, I think that all of them are correct in their own way.
Yeah, Izzy, I thought...
Except the magic fucking polar bear.
Yeah, Izzy, I thought he was gonna go full BuzzFeed Unsolved, too.
No.
Because you don't watch much BuzzFeed Unsolved, do you?
No, I do not. Ashley watches the shit out of it.
I know, that's why I love Ashley. Which, speaking of, I need to watch the most recent BuzzFeed Unsolved because it's the last season! I'm so sad.
I'm sorry. You okay?
As long as I get more puppet history, I'll be fine.
I think puppet history will be going for a while.
Good. I need more puppet history.
Wonder if they'll ever do a puppet history episode about the Franklin expedition. Probably not. There's not a lot of history there that we know definitively, so probably not.
I could see them doing a supernatural Unsolved on the Franklin expedition.
Ugh. It wasn't fucking aliens, y'all. They died. It wasn't aliens.
I mean, if we could get a BuzzFeed Unsolved Supernatural on the fucking Roanoke colonists, that we can get it on the goddamn Franklin
Don't
expedition.
even get me started on fucking Roanoke Colony. I get so fucking triggered, everyone, whenever someone starts talking about Roanoke.
I
and they're
hate
like,
it.
They're like, oh, it's such a big mystery. It's like, no, it's not. It's not a mystery. It's really not. Like, oh, this entire this entire colony vanished, and all that was found was the word Croatoan on one of the trees. What on earth could have happened? Certainly they couldn't have run off with the goddamn Croatoan Indian population population that was literally right fucking next door. And oh, by the way, a whole bunch of babies started showing up that had a mixture of both European and Croatoan Native American features. Oh god, I sure do wonder what the fuck happened.
Yes, Neophyte, that is exactly what happened.
Yeah, they just moved. Because they were like, this place sucks.
The whole reason the dude left was because they didn't have any food.
Yeah, and they were like, this sucks.
And we have one person here who's basically an emissary from the people from the Native American groups there. Let's just listen to him.
Yeah, let's just be like, hey, is anyone willing to take us in?
Yeah.
Turned out they were.
Yeah.
Why did this need to turn into a mystery? If anything, it's an incredible story about people putting aside their differences and, like, realizing that the people that they may have considered lesser than them were actually their salvation, and it's the, you know what? That's why it fucking turned into a goddamn mystery. It was the exact opposite of the white savior. God forbid we have the white people being saved.
But no, we get legitimate theories that people have posited of either a mass alien abduction or a instance of a contained zombie outbreak. That is a legitimate theory that people are behind, that a outbreak of the zombie virus was contained to this island, even though we have like no bones of people who died there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's no bones there. There's no remains. Nothing. They just fucking left, y'all, because it sucked. They pulled an Alice from Well, There's Your Problem?
Yep.
They pulled an Alice. You know how Alice always says, you know, if I was in that situation, that really dangerous situation,
I would just walk away.
I would just leave. That is what they did! They pulled an Alice! They went, we're just gonna walk away from this.
Yeah. Except instead of doing it on the side of a sinking ship and swimming 20 feet to the Italian coast, they just walked over to a friendly Native American tribe.
Yeah, and they said, hey,
we need help.
Hey, can we crash on your couch, dude?
Yeah.
Yeah, pulling an Alice is how you survive Cthulhu scenarios. You fucking get. Although, granted, speaking of just leave, I guess.
That's what Franklin expedition did.
Well, I think they would try to argue, well, that's why you shouldn't pull an Alice. And I'm like, no, they did the right thing pulling an Alice. They just pulled an Alice in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yes, the Donner Party was also offered assistance by Native Americans to try and get to safety, and then they ate them.
See you later, Goodwin.
Later.
That was also something that took place. That's one thing we need to talk about, is the, I didn't know if I was going to need more time. I don't think that I will, so, you know, we'll let it lie. We'll let that be maybe the next thing that I talk about if I ever do if people ever want me to talk about a historical event ever again. The Essex whale ship. Because
yes. The one that inspired Moby Dick.
Yeah, because that's a big thing that happened with the Essex whale ship, is they had multiple opportunities where they could have fucking survived.
Three islands.
And they were just like, but cannibals.
But there
and then they turned into
there.
there weren't any cannibals there, and they turned into the cannibals.
Yep.
Like, fucking hell. Fucking hell, people.
I could do my research a little bit on Moby Dick's themes while you do that.
Yeah. But, yeah, so... People, you know? Just fucking people.
Fucking suck.
And also, a bunch of white people basically, disparaged an entire culture of people because those people said, yeah, your guys ate each other.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, the ones that got it best were the three people who stayed on that one little island.
Yep, because they just had birds and shellfish and they didn't have to fight like 40 other men for the food.
And I think like one of them was sick and the other two were black.
Yeah,
the other two were black and realized what direction this ship was going in.
Yeah, they were running low on the turtles that they stole from one of the islands that they set on fire.
Yeah. And surprise, surprise, the first people to die and be eaten
were the black people.
Were the black crew members. Which is why I think those two black crew members were like, yeah, nope.
We're gonna stay with the guy who has tuberculosis.
We got a better chance with him.
Yep.
Oh, and also there was before things really started going south, before the ship even sank, one black crew member just deserted at one point, like earlier. They were like, nope, 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 nope. And that would turn out to be that guy would turn out to be the smartest person on the entire ship.
Yep. There was a really young lad, about 11 or 12 years old, that was, it was either the captain or the first mate who said, I will look after him as he is my nephew. And then he was one of the first crew member that was white that was eaten.
Oh, no. The 12 or 14-year-old survived.
Yeah. What? No, he didn't.
Yeah, the youngest one survived. The captain's nephew was a little bit older than 12 or 14.
I thought he was the 11 or 12-year-old.
No. That was just a cabin boy. He survived. The nephew of the captain was older, but yes, he was...
No. The older man who said, no, I'll watch after him, he was like, shunned whenever he got back home by the sister or whatever who he swore to protect. The young man, or whatever.
Yeah. We're gonna put this to rest. I'm Googling it right now. We're gonna put this to rest. Let's see. Come on.
Wasn't his name Owen Chase?
No, Owen Chase was the guy who kept arguing with the captain on everything. But no, Owen Chase was... Either that or Owen Chase was the first one killed. He might have been the nephew. But the cabin boy, like, the young man was different. Hang on. Okay, Owen Chase was 23. The youngest member of the crew was the cabin boy, Thomas Nickerson, who was 14.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, he lived.
Yeah, he survived. He wrote, in 1876, he wrote The Loss of the Ship Essex, which was an account of the ordeal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Okay, Owen Chase was the first mate. Okay, so, yeah. George Pollard was the captain, Owen Chase was his first mate, and then there was,
There was the young man who, a captain or high-ranking mate swore to protect, and then he ended up getting eaten anyway.
it was the captain's nephew. Hang on, I'm looking it up right now. Coffin. Owen Coffin. Owen Coffin was Captain Pollard's 18-year-old first cousin.
I knew it was like Owen something.
Yeah. So Owen Coffin was
Was the one that was eaten.
yeah, he was the first one who was actively killed in order to be eaten,
Yeah.
according to the white men, who swearsies for realsies they totally didn't kill any of the black men.
Yeah, who say, oh...
We're back.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, everyone. Yeah, I gotta sneeze.
There it is. Ooh, twofer.
Ugh. I've got that really painful feeling where the roof of your mouth itches because of allergies, and it really feels uncomfortable. Yeah, and I got one more.
There it is. Double feature.
Okay.
You good?
I think I'm alright. I think I'm okay.
I need to get this for you. Trilogy!
Okay, so. What do y'all do? What do y'all do whenever the roof of your mouth itches from allergies? You know when you got that like itchiness in the roof of your mouth and in the back of your nose?
Gargle warm water is my usual go-to. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it does.
Okay. I actually would have liked it better in the AMC miniseries. I would have liked it better if the they didn't even need, again, they really didn't need the magic polar bear. They could have done a regular polar bear. Polar bears are fucking mean. They're like the biggest land mammals, and also they are they actively hunt humans. They're like the only bears that do
Well,
so.
I mean, we're kind of destroying the land they live on.
Well, they were doing it even before then.
True.
And polar bears are fucking terrifying. They could have done this successfully with polar bears and had a same, out. Because there's a possibility that maybe some polar bears actually did, like, see the crew and go, ooh, food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, fuck Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, food is scarce in the Arctic. Polar bear eat fucking anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, oh, food? Get in my belly.
Woo!
Yeah, I'm actually not reasonably scared at all of sharks. The likelihood of me being attacked by a shark is so incredibly rare. I'm just not.
See, my thing is, I just don't like the ocean in general.
Fair.
I stay out of their yard.
They stay out of my yard, I stay out of theirs.
Pretty much. Like, I think that's fair enough.
Yeah. So, yeah. How did y'all enjoy the change in the experience, kind of opposite day almost of the DisasterCast with me giving the story and Kayla playing this time?
Very shittily playing, but I still reached a new record. I'm happy about that.
You should be. You did good. You did well.
Yay!
Especially considering you were trying to also absorb what I was talking about.
Yeah, I was like, oh god, this is what Bird does each week? How? How?
I feel like we both gained a new appreciation for the thing that the other one does.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna retain mine.
I'll retain mine.
Good for you. You're a better person than I am.
Because I'm the good one.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, talk to Grandma, I'm gonna know.
Sorry.
I mean, not your fault. I had Papa and Dad.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, at this point in adulthood, I have Mom too.
That's true. Jordan makes a good point. Fun fact. Arctic is from Arctos, meaning bear. Antarctic is no bear. Literally, the poles are bears here and no bears here.
I love that. I love it.
Thank you for sharing that bit of information, Jordan. I appreciate it. I recently found my stash of board games. One of my favorites is Pandemic. That did not age well.
Yeah, my boyfriend had that board game, and so did his sister.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
So at this point, now the question becomes, what do we do next week?
I do not know. I don't know. I'm gonna be putting in job applications this week. Chad, what would you like for us to do next
Yeah,
week?
now we're just sitting there like, oh, what should we do next week? We should find something weird to play. You know, go back to the idea of what the fuck Sunday?
I
Play
forgot what
something
that was. Game or story? Yes.
I mean, I imagine you've got some disasters or maybe unsolved murders that you've been eager to talk about.
I do keep a list. No, we can't do Leisure Suit Larry.
I was about to say, isn't that banned? Oh, that actually reminds me. Thank you for bringing that up, Raven. Tomorrow, I will start Downfall.
You said that last week.
Yes, but last week we had to move
Oh, yeah,
things
yeah,
around because I had to take Grandma.
yeah.
Yeah, I had to take Grandma to the doctor's.
Let me look up games banned on Twitch.
Yeah, next week. Not next week. Jesus Christ.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I start Downfall. For those of you who stuck around for Cat Lady, I'm just gonna be honest. If Cat Lady was a little bit much, you might not want to do Downfall. Because Downfall is a lot of the darkness with none of the hope.
Well,
that
shit,
Cat Lady
laser,
ends up.
laser shoot, laser. The Larry game is not banned on Twitch, which surprises me.
Huh.
Huh. And
Okay,
we'll figure something.
Rakudo. Let me put a moratorium on that right now. I will never play Danganronpa. It's not happening. My voice is already dying just from 2.5 hours of talking about.
Yeah, it's fucking difficult, isn't it?
It's very difficult. My voice is already dying from it, so. Yeah, Izzy Minx will go live in a few, so we're kind of killing time until she goes live so we can give her a raid.
Yeah. How is Leisure Suit Larry not banned on Twitch? It's weird.
Maybe if it was Leisure Suit Laura, it would have been banned.
I was about to say, how is Honey Pop banned, but that isn't? It's so weird. It's so weird.
We can raid her with the message Sir Lady Jane says, fuck your magic polar bear. I like that, actually. I like that a lot.
I love the character of Sir Lady Jane first in her name.
Sir Lady Jane Franklin. I will never outlive that at any point.
First in her name! Give her some goddamn respect.
Some respect on that name whenever you speak it.
Seriously.
I mean, yeah, Honey Pop does get explicit.
So does Leisure Suit Larry!
I don't fucking know. I've never seen Leisure Suit Larry. I don't know how that shit goes.
I've seen the Game Grumps playthroughs on YouTube. They have to censor out quite a bit.
I mean, okay. Fair enough.
I mean, we got other options.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. We'll figure something out for next Sunday.
Yeah.
I'll figure out a game. Kayla will figure out the rest.
Yeah, I also gotta do my writing today. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
So, what other weird shit happened whenever you went to high school? I know we tend to block out those memories.
I just remember a lot of fights. There was one time, because we had my high school.
You sound like your allergies are fucking with you right now.
They really are fucking with me right now. My high school had a, my high school was the most diverse.
Yeah, it
county.
was.
Yeah, we had people from all over. We legitimately had a family that had immigrated from India, which I thought was really cool.
I didn't get that.
All of them were very, very nice and very awesome to talk to. I loved hanging out with them. So we had, we had all of that. And one of the things, though, is because we were still in the rural South, we did still have a lot of people with, like, Confederate flags and shit like that.
Yeah.
Specifically, we had a pretty good-sized Mexican population within my school. That was probably the biggest minority that we had present at the school. And I remember, because I witnessed this while it happened, one of the guys was actually in ROTC, and his older brother was, like, getting harassed by a skinhead, basically.
Yeah, because we got those.
Yeah. And skinhead started calling him a lot of, like, really derogatory things that, Mexicans get called. Basically, whatever you're imagining, whatever derogatory slur just popped into your head, chat. Yep, it was yes.
Yes.
Just yes. And the younger brother, who was the one in ROTC, and he was small. He was, like, smaller than me.
Small doesn't always mean weak.
Oh, that's exactly what happened, because he just, like, jumped onto this dude's back like a fucking spider monkey and just started wailing on him.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Now, normally whenever I saw whenever I would see someone in ROTC getting into a fight, I would go in and break it up. because I was trying to keep people in ROTC from getting into trouble. So I tried to I'd pull them off before things really got a chance to advance, so that way they didn't get in any trouble.
Yeah.
I let that one. I was standing right next to him. I probably could have picked him. I probably could have physically picked him up and picked him up off the guy. I did not.
That's because you're a good leader.
And then afterwards, when they looked at me and were like, "What happened?" I was just like, "I don't know."
I didn't see a thing.
Yeah, I was just like, "I didn't see anything. Didn't see anything." It's like, well, he says that he jumped on him. No.
No, I never would have allowed that to happen with my
have
cadets.
Yeah, I wouldn't have let one of my cadets do that. I backed that guy to the hilt. I was like, nope, he didn't do that. I was like, but he says he did. Trying to get him in trouble, I guess. Dude was standing right next to me. We were talking about something.
Yeah.
I looked over at the cadet. I was like, remember we were talking about how you needed help with your drill sequence for the end of the year, and I gave him a look, and he went, yeah, I remember that. And of course, his older brother backed us, so,
Yeah.
it was 3 people against 1, and I was the most respected person there.
Yeah, because you didn't get in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. So, they were just like... The secretary afterwards, the office receptionist told me afterwards, she said, we both know something happened. And I looked her dead in the eye and said, I don't know what you're talking about. And she said, I know you don't know what I'm talking about. And I appreciate that you don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But we both know something happened. And I was just dead ass, just looked her in the eye and said, don't know what you're talking about. So
the blue wall of silence is real.
Oh shit, I was part of the blue Oh fuck. I totally was a part of the blue wall of silence. But I mean, I wasn't
A
gonna
poor
rat
black
this-
kid wasn't getting killed.
Yeah. And I was like, I heard the shit that this guy had said, and I was not gonna let this kid get into trouble for that.
Fair enough.
Yeah. She was just she was staring me down. She knew exactly what had happened. She knew what I was doing, and she supported it wholeheartedly, what I was doing. But she was like, so how do you think he ended up with all those scratches? And I just shrugged and said, maybe he's because this dude had scratches like, when I say this kid jumped on him like a spider monkey and went at him like a spider monkey, I fucking mean it. He clawed the fuck out of this dude's face. It was great. I greatly enjoyed watching it. It was easily some of the best shit I've ever seen in my life. And she was like, well, why do you end up with all those scratches? And I just shrugged and said, it's hunting season. Maybe he stumbles into a bunch of briar patches.
Yeah.
And she actually looked at me and went, all right, good point. I think I caught her, she was like, oh, that's actually
I didn't think you'd actually have an answer to that.
He walked into a door, and then the door leapt onto his back and beat him within an inch of his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude made out with a cactus. I don't know.
Shit happens, yo.
Bird was never one to lie and things like that. I tried to always stay pretty honest and trustworthy at school, specifically for those exact moments.
Yep.
Because, if you're always the person who's honest, if you're always the person who follows the rules, if you're the person who, everyone knows is reliable, dependable, and trustworthy, it means that in the few times that you have to lie, nobody is ever going to doubt you.
Yeah, I mean, I punched a kid and made his nose bleed on my bus because he was making fun of me one day. And my bus driver didn't say anything because she really liked me because I was the last one on the bus and always talked to her. And whenever the kid tried to report me to the office, I was in middle school or whatever, they didn't believe him.
Yeah. When you're the honest person and you're the trustworthy person,
Yeah, because I never got in trouble. I never did anything like that.
That's the thing. The few times when you've got to abuse that power, everyone always believes you.
Yep. Being the quiet kid had its perks.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Oh, man.
You okay?
Yep, I'm good. Ugh, just stretching a little bit. I feel like this has been a good session.
Yeah,
Really?
we talked shit about schools and that's about it.
Mm-hmm. Which is fun. Talk shit about schools And I feel like I proved that between the two of us, we are both much superior. We're the far superior history teachers.
We are.
Like, we're way better at it.
We are. Speaking of which, while I take a shower today, I'm probably going to be listening to Extra Credits History while I do so. Because they're good history teachers, too.
Yeah, I like extra credits history. But I do mean it whenever I say that I think it's a good idea to watch the miniseries The Terror.
There she
very
is.
good. It's very, very good.
She's like,
Oh, she on live?
I just got the notification.
Oh, sweet. Not sweet as in, oh, great, I don't have to deal with you people anymore, y'all. It's just
I don't have to
my
vamp
voice is
for
tired.
time.
My voice is tired. I need to rest it. And also, you know.
Oh yeah, if you ever want to be safe, get a pack of yeast to protect you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeast are assholes.
Alright, y'all.
Sir Lady Jane, first in her name, says, fuck your magic polar bear.
Yeah. Sir Lady Jane says, fuck your magic polar bear. Go raid Minx, tell her she's awesome, because she is. She is gonna be doing some, horror stuff, which will be fun.
It's gonna inevitably involve anime because... Thanks.
Because she's a weeb, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna get some tea and honey, and I will be hanging out in chat, just kind of chilling as well. Thank you all so much for coming out. I hope that you all had a great time. I hope that you learned a lot. And I will see you all tomorrow for Downfall. 1:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Anything you'd like to say to close us out, Kayla?
Always give respect to Sir Lady Jane, first in her name.
Agreed. Bye, everybody.
Bye!